Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we're back with another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, Canada's longest running soccer podcast, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful and chilly British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhammer.
And just warning at the start, you might hear some fireworks going off in the distance. I didn't know we had some LAFC fans living in the neighbourhood, but...
Dude, I thought those were celebrating your anniversary.
It could be that, yeah. It's maybe just Caitlin letting them off.
No, your neighbours are serenading you.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, my anniversary on Halloween, and I mean, you're dressed for Halloween tonight. I hope you're dressed for Halloween tonight. You're laughing there as if you're not.
Well, I will probably be wearing this like I do. I'll be wearing it a lot during the winter because it's cold and it's nice to wear. But no, I'll be wearing it probably two more times this week. No, today was my son had a bunch of dudes over to celebrate.
A bunch of dudes over.
Well, a bunch of dudes over to celebrate his birthday. So it was like it was mostly Star Wars theme in the decor. And so I'm wearing my Chewbacca.
I'm not wearing a Chewbacca costume, but I am wearing a big puffy brown jacket that makes it look like I am. Do you want to see my head?
Oh my god! Oh no! Oh my god! Oh no!
And this is why we do not do video.
You've just gone blurry.
That's just your eyes from the shock of seeing that.
It's gone. Your Zoom's gone. Gone blurry.
Yeah, that's why we're an audio podcast.
So he was playing some Star Wars games, and then of course his big thing, which he really wanted to have his friends over, was for I can't call it FIFA anymore. It's EAFC 24.
It's a shit name. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And hey, can I give you the rundown on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Because I was toying with buying it because I got my PS5 earlier this year and I haven't got any football games for it.
Some of his friends were saying, they think it gets worse every year. I think it gets better every year, but at least on the gameplay side of things. Although corners are broken this year, they're way too easy to score on corners. The rate of it's almost
even
like
for me. I've spoken before. Me playing these games is much like when I went to that goth club, The Mission. I just can't score.
There you go. No, the defending is reminiscent of some MLS playoffs on set pieces, but is
it Whitecaps FC?
No, dude, like seriously, it's really easy to score on corners. Like the rate of scoring on corners is way higher than real life. That's for sure. But no, so we did.
You're a Whitecaps fan.
Yeah, we did. He did two groups, 2 games against each team in the group. And then just the top 2 going through single elimination semifinals and single elimination finals. And then Kirk beat me 3-2 in the final.
Good.
On a second after the extra time, would have ended on I don't know if it was a scissor or a bicycle kick off a cross. It was quite beautiful.
I've had a busy weekend. I've got a busy couple of days, as you mentioned, about anniversary coming up. We were talking today, we're thinking about maybe getting a second dog. I've always been a one dog family, but because our dog's got a little bit of anxiety and timid, so we thought a second dog might help her. Caitlin's a big fan of the long-haired, wiry Dachshunds.
Don't they require like more cleaning and stuff?
Yeah, they're also small, and I don't know if it's good for my back. The thing that goes in the favour for it, though, is I would then get the chance to go up to folk and say, would you like to see a photo of my hairy wiener?
Oh, no. My God. Have you asked Annie? How does Annie feel about this?
She is not for hairy wieners. She's very timid.
Oh, my God.
Whenever a male dog comes up behind her, she gets a little bit freaked out. Much like Caitlin, actually. But yeah, football-wise, it's... You'll disagree because Bayern won. I take it they won. I didn't look at the scores, but from what you were going on about,
you need to watch the highlights.
I don't.
No, you do. You do. How about this? I'll tell you about the first half.
No.
Oh,
I want to get into the show.
Okay,
I'll tell you about my shit soccer Saturday, where it started off with East Fife getting knocked out of the Scottish Cup by basically a pub team that are like non-league way down. Just
what was the score?
1-0. Stoppage time penalty in the first half. They got beat. And afterwards, the manager said, I quite liked this quote. He said, this game was a personality test for our side, and we failed it. Not quite sure what you take about that, but I feel you may have lost your dressing room there.
A little bit.
But, I mean, that was crap. We'll talk about the CPL Championship and some CPL stuff in part 3. In this part, we're going to talk Whitecaps. I didn't get to watch either of those games live because I was out commentating at UBC.
So I was working, and the moment I got home, I was able to put on both games while I was doing other stuff, but I got to watch them. So I turned on as the CPL finale was going to extra time, and
spoiler.
Sorry. And the LAFC game was just LAFC Whitecaps game was just starting.
Yeah, when I got home, which was like after 11 o'clock at night, because there was 2 games up at UBC, I put the Whitecaps game on the laptop, and I had PVR'd the Canadian Championship game, so I had them both on with the sound down for the CPL one, the sound up for Whitecaps. So kind of watched them both at the same time. Disappointing results, which we will get into. The highlight, though, of my weekend was UBC, who the men are now going off to nationals, and next week they've got a chance to win a 6th straight Canada West title for the first time in their history. The women will be hosting the Final Four on Thursday and Friday this week. If you're in the area, get out to those, and I'll have the calls for those on Canada West TV, and they're very close to getting to nationals again as well. But on the men's side in particular, a great thing to see is how many League One BC players have really contributed to their teams this year. And it just shows how important that league is, and they really need to kind of do a bit more work on that for next year that we'll get into in one of our December shows. But in general, it was not a good Saturday of soccer. As I say, you'll disagree.
Well, no, the Bayern game was really interesting. Some records were broken. Some interesting things happened in the game. So, yeah.
Did Fonzie score, take off his shirt, reveal a Real Madrid top underneath?
No, he didn't score. I don't know what he's wearing underneath.
One thing, though, that did happen when I was at UBC, so between the 2 games, I'd switched my phone off, apart from text, so I didn't want anything to come through on the internet. So there was no data, there was no internet, I couldn't check anything during the game. And I'd got in the car, I was going to go and get some food between the 2 matches, and then I got a text from Caitlin saying, Matthew Perry's died.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what? So then I did switch my internet on just to read that, and I still managed to avoid all the scores, thankfully. It was this is only for people from the UK of a certain vintage. It was like the famous Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads episode, where the 2 main characters are trying to avoid the result of the England game so they can watch the highlights on BBC that night. And anytime anyone comes near them that might tell them the score, they just run away and they do all this stuff. It's a fantastic episode that I won't spoil because it's a little twist in it. But I kind of felt like that, trying to avoid the scores, which I did manage to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matthew Perry's death was just...
One of my friends put on their social media could I be any sadder?
I saw a few
And
folk post stuff like that. It's
R.I.P. Chandler.
he
Yeah.
was his character was my favorite in the show. I was a big fan of Friends in the 90s, and it's nice. It's had a bit of a resurgence. Although I've heard that the modern day generation, they don't like some of the humour in it. They feel it's too white and doesn't show diversity. And as with all these things, it's like it's different times, and that was the group of friends that it was. And stuff like that annoys me when you're analysing TV shows from many years ago and you're holding it up to today's values.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows that I like from the 70s and 80s don't stand up today. But I still love them.
Let's not go through the list of the.
I was just watching one over the weekend, but
I believe you. Yeah,
it came up as a recommendation on YouTube.
We've had
says a lot for my YouTube watches.
We've had a lot of, I can't remember if they've been on air, off air, or both, conversations about the. I'm sure there's an actual term for this now, but like, yeah, putting the present context onto previous generations or previous times, and then evaluating them by that, which sometimes maybe is fair, but I think sometimes it's definitely not. So I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what the current generation of people think of Friends, but yeah, it was what do they call it? It was like the water cooler show, right?
Yeah,
or one of them of its generation.
I was slow to get into it. It was one of my friends that had watched it, and it was about series 3 or 4, and he's like, "Are you watching this?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "Oh, he lent me the DVDs for the early seasons, watched it, loved it, and then watched it like non-stop after that." It was such a good show. And
wasn't it a part of like, because it wasn't on rough, like overlapped most of the years with Seinfeld, so wasn't it on like NBC's must see TV on Thursday nights or something?
Possibly. Like we had it on Channel 4 over in the UK.
But
so
there were so many things from it that became iconic, right? Or now they're as you call them, memeable things, right? Like we were on a break, or I can't remember all the other ones, but yeah, there's so many things in that.
But I mean,
again, people would gather at work at the water cooler or at
and talk about it. Like we talked about it at my work. When I first met Caitlin, we talked about it. She would watch it over here, I watched it over there, and then we finished the season together when she was in Scotland. But like reading some of the stuff that's come out, Matthew Perry just talking about the strain the show put on him, trying to be funny, constantly deliver those one-liners, because he was always, this is what I was saying to Caitlin about this today, it's like everyone was funny in the show, but when you look at it, he was the character that was expected to deliver the zinger, the big one-liner, and get that laugh. So the pressure on you in front of a live audience to deliver that and to get that laugh, it took the toll on him, which is sad.
Yeah, and then did you ever listen to? He did some interviews after the Friends reunion, talking about his health and his
and then
battles.
He wrote his autobiography last year as well.
Yeah, that's what I think he was doing a press tour for that. Saw him last.
R.I.P. Matthew Perry. In tribute to Matthew Perry, I was initially going to call this episode of the podcast Halloween Horror Show.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah.
Which is where it was going to go. But instead, I thought it's a nice fitting tribute to him. We're going to call it The One with All the Horror. Which brings us on to the Whitecaps and the football chat. I've been putting it off. We've been chatting for 15 minutes, avoiding talking about Whitecaps, but we've got to get to it. The Whitecaps horror show in LA. Forget Universal Studios. Forget Disneyland and all their decorations and the Haunted Mansion and Tower of Terror. Forget the big costume parade that they have on Sunset Boulevard every Halloween. The real LA Halloween horror show came at BMO Stadium on Saturday night, Zach. The Whitecaps, what time was it? Thankfully, it wasn't time for them to call an end to their playoff hopes, because it's a best-of-3 series. After me hating it so much, thankfully it's a best-of-3 series.
Well, yeah, because there's a few teams that are thankful.
Yeah, I think St. Louis after tonight are going to be. Yeah. I'm glad it's a best-of-3 series.
Well, because it's not even just. Again, I'm not saying I'm for the format.
No, I'm still not. I still hate it.
But for teams like St. Louis, Vancouver, and a few others, it's you don't have to, like, it doesn't matter how bad you lost, right?
Yeah, it's
You
not
just
an
have one
aggregate
loss.
score.
Exactly. So
They're
you're not
basically
going
they're
into it.
down 1-0.
Yeah, down 1 out of 3. So you just have to go on a 2-game winning streak. That's
Yeah,
all you got to
easy.
do.
Piece of
And
piss.
2-game tying streak and win at penalties even,
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah.
just avoid giving up free kicks and corners, which of course we will get into. I mean, on paper, we chatted a little bit before we started recording. If anyone just looked at it and didn't look at the game, they'd say, "Oh, 5-2 defeat, heavy loss for the Whitecaps." If you read some of the comments about horrible defending, if you watched just the goals out of context, you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
terrible defending."
Yeah, if you
But
just watch just the highlights, you don't get the
yeah,
true picture of the game for sure.
like the reality of it is the Whitecaps played a very good game. It was an excellent first half from them. They were very much in this game. And when they went 3-2 down, they had to chase the game a little bit. They left a bit of space and then they got caught with some bad defending. I think we can pretty much say Brian White, good in one box, not the best in the other. Maybe keep him out of the penalty box defending. I'm being a little bit harsh on Brian, I know, but like genuinely, this loss for the Whitecaps is not as bad as it appears. They went there and they gave LAFC a hell of a game.
Yeah, it was. I definitely think it was more difficult than LAFC thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
They, despite and I know for some people the game at BC Place, whatever it was, a week ago or however recently it was, I think that maybe gave people a bit of a false dawn for the Whitecaps in this, but I think even though LAFC came in this with a bit of swagger as, hey, this is our competition, we won it last year, we're at home, whatever, the Whitecaps gave them a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's a lot that obviously there's a lot to analyze in a negative way, but there's a lot that they'll look at this and that they can build off of and can be proud of, because yeah, they, especially in the first half, they gave them a game.
Yeah, the goals they scored as well.
Oh
were
yeah,
good. And there's certain key moments in the game. Not just talking about the goals, which obviously are, but the fact that when they tied it up at 1-1, they lost the lead just a couple of minutes later. Like 2 minutes, they held the lead. So it's like you hold on for a little bit longer. Does that change the game a little bit? You defend the set pieces better. You don't maybe stick a foot out. Yohei Takaoka, I feel, could have done a bit better in some of the goals as well, but how much sight he saw for them. I mean, I guess we'll go through the goals. We won't delve loads into them because there's 7 goals to talk about. But
a couple that we need to talk about.
Yeah, LAFC, they came out strong, and then the Whitecaps also came out strong, and it was a good end-to-end game. And it's like the Whitecaps didn't go there to defend. They didn't go there to try and get level at the end of the 90 minutes and take it to penalties. They went there fully believing they could get a result. And as the commentators kept telling you, oh, and they can because they did it in June. And yes, they can because they did it in June. It was a good performance. It was a good game plan. I think it was probably the perfect starting lineup. The only debate you might have is Shopf, Ali Ahmed. But Vanni had basically said Alessandro Shopf is our number 8 for away games. So I think you can take that Ali's the number 8 for the home games. Is that a good thing? It's based on his experience, but he didn't stand out the way that you need him to if he's going to take that role on in this game anyway.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of criticism of Shopf, and part of that is at least connected to his salary.
I know it's hard to split it, but it does factor in, sadly.
But he's had
league.
I think he's had some good games, and he's had some games where he's been either less visible or not quite at his levels.
Well, think back to the start of the season. Him and Gressel were linking up superbly.
Yes.
And since Gressel's gone, Shop's not been as good.
Yeah, it was like they were on a good wavelength together, those two.
Be like a good wavelength.
I was going to say probably listen to your music together. But no, I think it's interesting Vanny saying it that way. And yes, you assume Ali's gonna play in match number 2, and then if that goes the Whitecaps way, then it'll be interesting to see if he goes back to shop for the third. I don't have a problem with it. I think the biggest thing was that Kubas was back, right?
Yes.
Like that. I think
But
that
he fell off a little bit. He started strong, then tailed off a little bit towards the end of the first half and was really not the Kubas that we know in the second.
But
which is understandable.
Yeah, but I think they got a lift even from just having him in there.
Yeah. It was I want to say it was Doyle on MLS that had said, "Oh, the Whitecaps have no chance because Kubas is out for the rest of the season." And all of us in the Vancouver media were like, he's going to be back this Saturday. What are they talking about? All right, let's just keep that quiet because they obviously don't know that.
Yeah. The other thing was the other one was and obviously he's had some great games and then some disappointing games, and he had some negative moments. This is Brown.
Yeah, this wasn't one of his better games, and you knew he was going to come off again around the hour mark. He'd picked up an early booking, I think, as well, if I remember right, and that always worries you when a defender's going to get a booking. But yeah, there's a few folk. I mean, Blackman as well wasn't maybe one of his best games either.
Oh yeah, he also got yeah.
And I mean,
Brown was the 41st and Blackman was the 55th. So yeah.
But we'll talk about what might need to change for the second leg in a sec. But if we get into the goals, the opener came in the 18th minute, and corner comes in from Vela. Great delivery to the back of the 6-yard box. Ryan Hollingshead's waiting there. It's a good header and a fantastic save from Yohi Takaoka. But it went straight back to Hollingshead. And this is one of the goals that I look at it two ways. It's a great finish by Hollingshead to finish from that tight an angle. From a Whitecaps point of view, how can you let that goal in from that tight an angle?
It feels like they're too static. And I know people, and if Steve was here, he would talk about, zonal marking or whatever on these type of things leads to that. But yeah, they were too static, flat-footed. I think I only listened to a little bit of Vanny post game, but I think he would say that they, didn't attack the areas, the spaces the way he would have wanted them to, or at least that's what I'm guessing he would have said. But yeah, it just did not look good, right? It looks really, really bad. And yeah, if you're Takaoka, you're like, I've just made a quality save, and you guys this guy let the shoot just have a free second chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a foreshadowing of things to come from set pieces, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly it was. But I mean, it would have been easy to think, LA's just going to turn it on now. But we've spoken about this a lot over the year. This is a Whitecaps team that doesn't give up. They don't know when they're beat. They don't let their heads down. They've got a fight about them, and I love that. It's always going on about this is probably the best overall Whitecaps team of the MLS era. Part of that is because they've got this fight about them, and they just dust themselves down and get on with it. And then 9 minutes later, they were back level. Great stuff by Brian White. Made this happen. I mean, it was great from LA to set it up. It's like a loose pass, pounced upon. White, Kubas breaks up the pass, plays in White, but White still has a lot to do when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
And does it well.
Kubas does what he's supposed to do. Yeah. Win the ball back as quickly as possible. A nice pass, like good vision. I think showed maybe vision that we don't always see from him. And then White, this is the second time I think this season. I think the other was in the clinching game against St. Louis. Yeah, it was the clinching game in St. Louis where he showed that he's not the fastest player in the field, but he still has pace at the right moment to break away, to get away, and yeah, goes in alone, opens up his body, side foots it into the far corner.
It's a deft little chip.
Yeah. He finesses it into the far corner, and then gets taken out by Giorgio Chiellini for his
Yeah.
trouble, which was kind of, I saw some people on social media calling for like, why wasn't there a card for that as well, or blah, 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 blah. Which actually is not a horrible shout. I mean,
No?
I don't think they would have ever given him a red card for that, and
Oh
so then
no.
that VAR can't give him a yellow. But yeah, it was quite the thing. But and then White in the moment decides also, which I'm sure they let him know about later, but decided to let the LAFC fans tried to shush them and fingers in the ear.
I
And
I loved
yeah,
that, but my immediate thought was, that could come back
yeah.
to haunt him.
Oh, when Kirk saw it, he's like, "Oh, they are gonna give it to him." You could see
Yes.
people fingering him and come like running
They
down.
were doing what?
Yeah, sorry, giving him the finger, Michael.
I've seen that Tom Green film.
Oh man, I
Freddie,
have not.
have you seen Freddie Got Fingered?
No.
Oh, it's absolute shit, but still hilarious.
Oh, there you go.
I had it on DVD for a while. I would have lent it to you, but
But yeah, no matter how many fingers that he put in his ears, you be able to hear those.
oh yeah.
You can hear those LAFC
Oh,
supporters
Sam did the
in that
shushing as
stadium.
well. We'll get to that
Yes.
with his goal, and
Oh,
it's
Sam did
like,
the Sam did the cup to the
oh,
ears.
did he? He didn't do the
I think
shush as well.
I thought he did the
Oh
cup to
no,
the
yeah,
ears.
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Like, give it to me. I can hear you, or I'll take it
Yeah.
from you, whatever.
But I mean, back on level terms, and you're like, ho, game very much on here.
Oh yeah,
But then, like, the lead lasted less than 2 minutes. Buanga, banger of a goal. Again, you know that he's such a dangerous guy, and he skips past, first of all, Javane Brown, and then Ranko to get that room in front of goal. And like on the last show, we were paying tribute to Bobby Charlton. And I don't know if you've seen many of Bobby Charlton's like videos of his goals and stuff, but I mentioned on this a lot, the Sloping Pitch podcast. They were talking on that this week, that when you watch Bobby Charlton's videos, he shoots from like 20, 25 yards out constantly and scores. When he doesn't have to, he could run into the box. He's got more time, but he's
yeah.
got that confidence that I can shoot and score from here. And that's how it feels with Buanga.
LAFC has done something different this year. Trundle, I don't know if he's done it just some games or whatever. When we were there in August, I think it was different than for this game, but because usually Vela, or in previous years for sure, Vela has been someone who's played on the right. But what you saw in this game, and I think some other games this year, is they put Vela in the middle, put Boanga on the left, and what's the guy's name? Christian Oliveira, I think, on the right. And I just find it interesting because Boanga is such a dominant force, but because he's so strong, like on this goal, he's able to come into the middle. And because Vela is so given so much freedom on where he can be, when he pulls out of that middle, he creates so much space. And that's a little bit what happens here is he makes a run that opens up space for Boanga to just create a shot for.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, Ranko doesn't cover himself in glory. I can hear Simon Fudge comments in the background of how he doesn't think, Ranko is, the best quality MLS defender, although he's had a really great year. But Michael, you can't also forget this goal starts with a nice precision long ball from Giorgio Chiellini out of the back that then gets flicked onto Boanga on the wing. It's so all around. If you're LAFC, you're showing the diversity from which you can score.
Yeah.
And this was also their one goal from open play, right?
Yes, their one and only.
Yeah.
I mean, like talking to Chiellini, he had a very up and down game, I thought. There was some great moments from him, and there was some moments where he kind of showed his age a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if they're going to think, you know what, I think we can maybe get the job done at BC Place and rest him, not have him play on turf, have him on the bench in case we need him. And I think that would be the sensible thing to do, as much as I'd like to see him play again, because it's always fun to see him. But that pass, it just shows the quality that he's got.
Yeah. I wonder too, because he has played at BC Place. I wonder if Trundle just and Mark have a conversation with him, just say, hey, how do you feel about this? Because
because if they win on Sunday, they've got a couple of weeks off as well.
Yeah. So that comes into it as well, because it's like, do we want to go there, get it done with? And even if you have to play on a difficult surface or a surface that's not ideal, you'll have a couple weeks to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that way into it as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what might happen with that.
Denis Bouanga, though, I mean, what a season he's had. For me, he's right up there with Acosta as MVP. I think Bouanga's done it across all competitions, whereas you're really meant to just look at what he's done in the league, but obviously Golden Boot and everything as well. But I still think Acosta probably edges it. That's who got my vote in the end of year's awards. I know I didn't vote for Ryan Gold, but Ryan himself came out and said, look, I didn't have a great start to the year. There's other people who deserve this, which is like nice honesty. Because he didn't.
Who wouldn't want a player like Acosta on their team?
I would love. Do you think we could make a bid in the transfer market? That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
In some places. I've got to say, when it went to 2-1 again so quickly, I felt quite deflated. And I was like, oh, we had a chance and we've thrown it away. And I did worry at that point that LA were going to just turn it on. But then, again, Whitecaps settled, did so well. Great to see Sam Arakubi getting his first goal as a Whitecap upon his return. A fantastic goal as well. Lovely header. And what a free kick from Ryan Gold. Pinpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I was very happy for Sam, obviously. I cannot remember a time where I've seen Sam in the box on a set piece, right? And typically, most clubs, most managers will have their fullbacks or wingbacks be the ones who drop back to midfield where the taller center backs go in for set plays and corner kicks. When he scored, I was like, who is that? I was like, I couldn't believe it was Sam. I was like, that's crazy.
I don't remember him scoring a header.
Yes, that either. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for real.
I was like, wow.
But you could tell how happy he was, and then he went to the side and did the both ears like give it to me, or I can hear you, or it was good.
Well, I mean, that was the busy section of the stadium. That was a surprise. That was quite a poor crowd.
Yeah, it's weird because I forgot to double check they said 22,000 sold. The capacity is 22,000 according to Wikipedia.
So two extra people sneaked in.
Yeah, two extra people snuck. So yeah, the game was a sellout, but people just weren't there. So I don't know if it's the season ticket holders, if it's a corporate thing, right? Some of those empty seats were corporate. I don't know if the fact that it was too short notice. I don't know what, or people were just trying to sell them, right? Like some people sold their Messi tickets. Some people sold their Messi tickets to pay for their season tickets for the next how many years, right? So I don't know.
You can do that. Sensible.
Yeah, but so technically, I believe, according to the internet's reporting of the game and their stadium number, it was a sellout.
Wow,
which is awkward because there were so many.
Yeah, it definitely did not look.
And now when we went to the game in August, before the game started, I was like, where are all the people? And it did fill up quite quickly. Like a lot of them were on the concourse and a lot of them were eating outside the stadium or whatever. And it did fill up quite quickly. But even that night, I was like, this is full, but not like jam packed, like no room for other people full. And I forget what the attendance was that night. I think it might have been a sellout that night or it might have been close to a sellout that night. But I wonder how much that would concern their ownership group, who are so many celebrities and, personalities.
Probably not. Like Vancouver's not a huge draw, is how they'll just probably argue it.
Yeah, but because they're celebrities, typically for many celebrities, and I'm not trying to stereotype the ownership group, but appearance is an important thing. No, but I wonder if that's a thing that they're concerned about. I wonder how I wonder for like John Thorrington, or your old buddy there you used to call Sick Note. I wonder
who I saw last week. And we're trying to eavesdrop in a conversation that he was having about someone had been accusing someone of tampering.
Oh.
Mm. We were all like, "Oh, what's this? What's this?"
was it about Chiellini to Vancouver?
It's like, Vanny had his arm around him again, and he's like, "Come here."
They were saying things in another language.
I don't know if you saw Total for the Language in the post-game press conference for this. Max Crepeau was the translator for Buanga after the game.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah, it was funny. But anyway, level at the half, feeling optimistic. That lasted 7 minutes into the second half, and it's Hollingshead again. For the second time in his career, he scored 2 goals against the Whitecaps. Yeah. And, I mean, this one, bit of unfortunate. Buanga takes the shot. White just sticks his leg out. Could have gone anywhere into the path of Hollingshead, who tucks it away.
Yeah, there's other questions to be asked, though, Michael.
Yeah.
Are there not? Yeah, because...
Ask them.
Well, what, like, does Javaine Brown not need to react quicker to get off the line?
There's a couple of them need to react quicker, yeah.
Well, in general, yes. They all, again, they feel static or stuck, like, stuck in a zone or in a spot or whatever. But the thing is, Javaine drops back, like, to go on the line. Like that, it's like, why is he dropping back there? And in fact, his dropping back again, if Steve was here, he'd say he should have been picking up Hollingshead at worst, if not, drawing the line to push Hollingshead further back. So it's like if he had stayed with Hollingshead, it wouldn't be a problem. If he had pushed up, he might have been offside. And so, like I was referring to earlier in the game, it did not look good at all. Like it yeah. I don't know if it put Takaoka off at all or anything like that. I don't know, having someone so close to you like that on the line, but it played him onside. Yeah. It played him onside and meant he was wide open, and it's obviously it's a ricochet or a bounce.
Yeah, I mean the deflection could have gone anywhere, just happened to fall right into his path.
But again, if you're marking a man, it's not an issue. Or if you're pushing up the line collectively, there's a chance. Well, if he got it where he was, he would have been offside if someone's not, if a defending player is not standing on the goal line next to your keeper.
Oh, it's all ifs and buts, and it's. I mean, you get a little bit of that with the next one as well. 12 minutes later, where Buanga takes the shot.
Oh yeah,
and it's a long range one. It's off White. Takaoka, I don't know if he's like shielded by White. If the deflection just takes it away, just that smidgen from where he's diving down. I kind of feel he should have done better on it. But at the same time, it was a deflection, so it's... I don't know. And I do feel sorry for White, because the 2 goals came off him. And I made the joke earlier about him defending it. There's not really much he could have done.
No, you still want Takaoka to react better, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it... Like,
I don't know if I was being harsh or not, but yeah.
I mean, it's not like it goes in the corner well past him. It's like if he just got his hand down to it better, like he feels like he could have, prevented it. But this was a set play where, again, and I said this on Twitter as people responded to my "what time is it" comment, like your "what time is it" comment.
Yeah, because I didn't know when you posted that, because I thought it was about the Whitecaps. I was having a pop at you. Oh yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there was a few what time is it? Yes, on Saturday, but no, I forget who was which was comment. Walter said, I think it's time for better defending training or practice or something, or whatever. And it did feel like from these set plays that LAFC was ready for the Whitecaps, and you even saw it in this type of free kick.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Did you see the post-game comments?
No, I haven't. I said, I saw just a little bit of Vanny.
Cherundolo said MDS is responsible for getting the team ready for set pieces and put all the credit onto MDS.
Well, that makes sense, because this is an example of they know how the Whitecaps defend, because that type of free kick, in addition to something, it's similar to something like a short corner, right? Where you get all these people together, there's zonal marking, you shift people around with a short corner, right? And in the shift, you have people who they're either still in zonal marking or they're needing to switch to cover someone and they're not quite ready. And that's what this was. Vela taking a free kick where he shuffles the ball over to Buanga into space, and now you have all the Whitecaps kind of like, where do I go? Right? The ball's not coming in the way I thought it would, and it's like they were kind of caught out. It felt like, and that's a type of play that I believe was meant to counteract how the Whitecaps defend set plays. and it proved incredibly meaningful for LAFC.
It did. I mean, when it was 3-2, I thought they still had a chance. And because I was watching it not live and it was on delay and on demand on Apple, I'd seen how much time was left on the actual broadcast. And I was like, oh, this is going to penalties because of how much time that was left. No, it was for all the post-game crap. But at that point, I was still like, oh, I'm excited. They're still going to get this back. When it went to 4-2, I was like, oh, is this going to be a absolutely stunning comeback here? I still thought if they could sneak the next goal, there was a bit of hope. But they never really looked likely that they were going to get that next goal. And this last one, 10 minutes from time, your boy Jesus, Murillo, rises unchallenged. I mean, we spoke about Sam's great header. I mean, he kind of rose unchallenged. This, because we only care about the Whitecaps' point of this, it was horrible to just let him rise like that and just head that home.
Yeah, I forget who was marking him, but it was help. They were.
I'm not sure anyone was marking him. He just seemed to just walk through it and jump.
They were helped by the fact that Ranko was covering Chiellini, and this kind of just went past both of them into Murillo's on-running header, right? So again, it was, this was the one that maybe felt like the broken FIFA headers from corners, because it's like there's nothing you can do about it, and it's going to happen to you at least once per game, or you're going to benefit from it once per game. Sorry, not FIFA, EAFC 24. They're not a sponsor yet, are they?
Of us?
Yeah.
Not yet. They did sponsor Not Somewhat this year, so I mean that sponsorship could be up for grabs now.
There you go. But yeah, it was disheartening. It was I know, obviously for Whitecaps fans it was difficult. We should give a shout out. There was I don't know, a dozen or 15 or 20 people who traveled down for the game.
There was a lot.
It was really great. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see them down there. Quick turnaround, short time to get your flights booked. Most of them that I know went down literally for like the day of, flew home the morning after.
Yeah, I was pricing it for the third game and possibly like maybe flying from Seattle because it's way cheaper. Having a couple of days down there, like leave Caitlin and Annie somewhere nice round about Seattle. I'll fly down for the game, come back the next day, maybe after a day at Disneyland or something. It's like, oh, my flight was delayed. Yeah, I'm having a butter beer.
That's universal.
I know.
But yeah.
Yeah, and a turkey leg. I got to both.
I heard someone make a joke about the Disneyland turkey legs this week. I forget where it was. It was funny.
It's a disappointing end result, obviously. That goes without saying. And
yeah.
I mean, if we're being frank, you're not going to be a deep playoff team if you defend like that. There's no way you'll get through this, even in best of 3 games or whatever, if you're going to defend like that, because you're going to get punished at this stage of the season against these top teams.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this more when we see what happens to the series as a whole.
Yeah,
but it's not over, obviously, but it was very deflating, right? And I think it's deflating not because I think most Whitecaps fans will be frustrated and whatever, but I think most of them believe, okay, we've lost this first game, we can take them at home for sure.
Yeah, I genuinely believe that.
And even though
fancy us next Sunday.
And even though they've beaten them in LA, I think that in the past, I think that most people, even if they think, the Whitecaps will beat them in Vancouver, I don't know that there's as many people now after that game have great hope for that game that you were talking about hoping to go to.
Yeah. I have to say, after that, I was like, even if it goes to game 3, I don't think I'm going to travel down for it.
I do want to say, and you and I were talking about this before you hit record, but regardless of what happens, as frustrating as that result might have been and how it came about might have been, no matter what happens in this next game or two, even though I know for some people advancing in the playoffs a round or two is a significant benchmark in terms of how they feel the club is actually progressing, which I think is totally fair.
Well, Vanny said that himself, that for him, he needs to take that next stage of getting deeper.
Yeah. This has still been a really great season for them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so again.
Yeah, because I saw lots of folk making comments like, oh, why have you given him the contract extension now? Baffling.
Yeah, I think they wanted that feel good factor on that last game in the stadium with the people, and like they wanted to respect him in that way. I don't necessarily have an issue with that, other than I think like I've said before, I don't think long term he's the right coach for them, and I don't think he's the long term. I don't think he's the right coach to take them to the ambitious places most people want them to get to. Or if he is, it'll take longer than most people have patience for.
Well, to get there as well, they have to improve that defence, and these are discussions we'll have at the end of this season. But a potent attack can only take you so far.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep relying on them banging the goals in if you're going to be giving up cheap goals like that. So now they've got to face this game coming up on Sunday, and it's like, what changes do you make? I think we're going to see Ali Ahmed in for Shop. I think that's a certainty. I would probably feel you have to change the back line, but what do you do? Do you go to a flat back four? Do you go to 3D, bring Laborda in, who's had his ups and downs?
Yeah, I was going to say, is there another option other than Laborda I'm not thinking of? Otherwise, if you go back forward, you go Sam Ritchie with Ranko and Tristan between them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's breaking from what they've been working with.
Yeah.
Which
I don't
could
think Vanny's
surprise LA, but
I don't think Vanny's going to abandon his back three. It's too precious to him.
I mean, do you keep Sam and Richie as the starters? Sam scoring probably secures him his spot, because he's been coming in and out with Ryan Raposo getting some starts as well to freshen things up.
Yeah, but this is why you got Sam. This is why you got Richie to go to that next level in the playoffs, to go a round or two or three or four deep or whatever, right? Like, so I can't see them not starting them. What did you think? Hoylett only got a few minutes, and he didn't really. He failed to impress. Again, it's a short.
Yeah, I know it's harsh because he hasn't been having a lot of time, but he's just not doing it for me.
Is the blow of that? Again, this is a part of the awkward dynamic which we talked about earlier. Is the blow of that like softened by the fact that his contract isn't huge?
In this case, no.
Okay, yeah.
Because I just look at what he's done and what he can do, and it's like, you're not that same Junior Hoylett right now, for whatever reason. But I mean, do you give him the start? Like, do you drop Viti? Do you have White and Hoylett up front with Gold behind them? That could be an interesting one. Or do you bring Sebastian Berhalter in, who I know has been playing more as a six and might not give you that attacking side that you need, but might give you that defensive stability?
No, to me, Berhalter's still a sub in the playoffs.
I mean, probably, yeah. But Viti, I think you could bring someone else in for him.
So maybe you're saying maybe Hoylett.
I'm thinking go with Hoylett and White up front and have Ryan in behind. Look for a 3-4-1-2. Yeah.
I mean, I think Gold likes that. Gold likes being the one, central attacking midfielder behind two out and out strikers. But then does that expose you too much defensively?
Possibly. I mean, you would kind of say, well, you have to go for it. You're at home. But now the pressure's on the Whitecaps because they can't just go for it and leave themselves short at the back, because then the series is over.
And not that you can worry about the criticism in this way, but this was part of the playoff. This is part of the playoff frustration for fans in Vancouver, right? Can you imagine if they go into BC Place and they bunker and try and get a 1-0 win?
Oh, yeah.
And then they tie and lose in a shootout, or they bunker so much that in the bunker bursts in whatever minute. Oh, is that you have fish there?
That's my dog. She's doing a Chewbacca impression, I think.
Oh, okay.
Let's try and get this. Of course, now she's stopped.
No, she's quiet. Come on, Annie. Oh, she can't hear me.
Perform for the camera.
She doesn't have your earphones in.
I'll put the headphones on. That'll spook her.
Yeah.
She's back again.
Sounds like a dolphin now. from over here.
I mean, folk are going to feel this is the most entertaining part of the show. I can't question that really.
But no,
But yeah, I mean, you got to have a big crowd because they've sold over 20,000 tickets. So yeah,
exactly.
if they put in a Robbo style playoff performance,
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's what Carl Robinson was criticized for.
Yeah,
Was taking an approach to get through that didn't pay off. Portland away, Portland at home, Seattle away, right? And so I think that I'm not saying Vanny wants to. It's like a little bit like Kevin Keegan.
mm-hmm.
I think Vanny would rather. Well, he would rather lose 4-3 than 1-0, right? Like, so, yeah. Obviously, I'm not saying he wants to lose. Please don't hear that. But yeah, I don't think he wants to lose a 1-0 game. He'd rather lose a game that's like 3-2, 4-3, 5-4, whatever.
Oh yeah,
where his team's out there and scoring
and the fans would love that as well because it's entertaining and they got a win. I'm glad that was what you meant by Kevin Keegan and not his more recent comments. But we'll quickly move on from that if you haven't seen those.
I have not seen those, so maybe we should not discuss those. I didn't mean to step in something that I didn't know was there. Unless it was,
I'll tell you, he doesn't feel that women should be talking about the English men's national team on TV panels because they haven't played for the English men's national team and the women's team is a totally different thing. He got a bit of stick for that.
Yeah, that's awkward. That sounds, yeah, that's not good.
Talking about views that from the past that maybe don't hold up today.
That was not what
he was hitting the head with a baseball bat years ago. So I mean, that's got something to do with it.
Tanya Harding, or
no, he was in his car and then someone came and hit him with a baseball bat.
Oh, okay. But you're right though.
This is
you're
why
right,
the podcast are 3 hours. We get sidetracked. Dogs barking.
I think you're right though. I think if the Whitecaps went out and they lost 4-3 or 5-4, I think you'd literally have people who would say, well, at least it's not like these last two experiences that we had that were dreadful and painful and whatever.
They went for it. They entertained. Can you imagine if they'd got a result in LA with already the tickets sold, the buzz that there would have been?
Oh, yeah.
You'd have had a probably full lower bowl, which you still might, because that's the other thing. It's a 4:30 kickoff on the Sunday, which is fantastic.
Okay. That's a unicorn for them this year.
Oh, it's like you can get folk coming in from the interior, depending on the snow, island, which just already seems quite bad out that way.
You can see the 9
island,
the 9 a.m. ferry or 9 p.m. ferry. Yeah,
you can do that. You've got the new Hello ferry and everything that we were talking about before. So I mean, you've got this option now to get. This could be the first time that people's got a chance to watch them this year because of the kickoff time.
And is this?
I know the Lions. When the Lions have had, like when I first came over here in 2007, I was living with my in-laws in Nanaimo for a couple of months, and the Lions had a big, I think it was the Western Conference Championship game, and it was an afternoon kickoff. So we got the ferry over, and then we got the ferry back, and the ferry, it was a 2 ferry wait just for walk-ons, because so many folk had come over for the island to see it. So that's the kind of buzz you want to get. So, I mean, this is fantastic.
Is that the only game that's on TSN or only game that's free on Apple? Or there was I saw some people.
Well, I know yesterday's game was free on Apple.
So, yesterday's was free on Apple.
Yeah.
So this
next one's on TSN.
Yeah, right.
And then I guess we see how that one plays out and what lies ahead. It's been an interesting start to the playoffs all round. We won't fully delve into the matches, but did you get a chance to watch the St. Louis KC game tonight before we recorded?
I didn't watch the game, but I've seen the highlights, yeah.
Oh, KC, without Johnny Russell, who they managed to rest and keep on the bench, go a goal down, and then 4-goal blitz.
Well, Johnny Russell probably should have won them their play-in game or whatever in the 90 minutes and then help them win it in the shootout, right? And against San Jose. But yeah, no, it's definitely a little bit of, I think that St. Louis having clinched the spot so early and resting players against teams like Vancouver and whatever.
Said this last week.
They looked not in full form, and they also seem like they might not be. They don't feel like a playoff team. You know what I mean? They're like built for the playoffs.
Jake Nerwinski had a bit of a mare as well tonight.
But should anyone be surprised by that?
He's had a good season by all accounts. And Timmy Parker did get on the
he scored,
score
right?
sheet.
Yeah. Saw that.
Actually, they didn't go one down. I'm saying they went one down and then came back with a 4-goal blitz. They took the lead and then St. Louis equalised right away. And then it was a 3-goal blitz.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It was
some cracking goals.
Yeah.
Again, long rangers. And then I watched the Houston RSL game.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights of that too.
And Houston looked good. RSL came back into it, but Houston deserved to win that. I mean, out in the East, I haven't watched the Philly-New England game from yesterday. I haven't even seen highlights of it. I know the score, but...
I've seen highlights of that. Philly, looked pretty dominant.
Watched a bit of the Cincinnati Red Bulls game and then just fast-forwarded through the rest. Cincinnati, very comfortable in that, looking good. It'll be a huge shock if they don't win the East and host the MLS Cup, but Philly might have a few things to say about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, overall... As much as I don't like the 3-game series, it's been some good games so far. Nothing's gone to penalties, which everyone thought, some of these games are bound to go to penalties, but so far, none. And then there's still 3 games to play. It's crazy there's a game on Wednesday as the first game of a set of 3. It's just
the scheduling
scheduling.
The scheduling is a little bit weird, but I think, again, part of that is stadium things, right?
Partly stadium, partly Apple. And it's like... There seems very little consideration given to the fans in the timing of these games. For example, the St. Louis-Kansas City game kicking off, it was like after 7 o'clock our time, so like after 9 their time. That's just stupid. They did get a full house, even though the weather was horrendous, but stuff like that annoys me. But that is it for our Whitecaps chat. That is it for our MLS chat. Let us know how you think the Whitecaps might get on next Sunday. Is it going to Game 3? Either way, that is it for our chat. We're going to bring you our feature interview, which has a Whitecaps connection, as well as a Vancouver FC connection. That's up next, as we talk to Vancouver FC captain and Whitecaps Academy alumni, Callum Irving.
Hi, I'm Sam Adekubi, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Following your mind's instruction on how to slowly, sharply scrap myself to death. All you say is a screw is pointing at my head. And look at dream peddlers sticking right through my bones. So the wrong was said at you, and you was your game. Oh, would you lay me down, twist me down, pin me up or put me down? Now let it all go. It's a horror show, come on round, horror show, horses brown. If something must go. She said, I'll show you a picture of tomorrow. There's nothing changing, there's all sorrow. Oh no, please don't show me, I'm sworn I don't want to know me. I'm following your mind's instruction. Oh, how to slowly, sharply screw myself to death. Oh, it's always a screw. It pointed at my head. It's pointed at you. Lay me down, twist, lay me down, pin me up or put me down. Now let it all go. It's a horror show. Come on down, horror show. Horses brown.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, I've had this song in my head since that Whitecaps game last night. From 2002, English band The Libertines, from their debut album Up the Bracket, Horror Show. I've just had the chorus going, oh, horror show, just after watching that game. And, I mean, if you were taking as many drugs as Pete Doherty, maybe watching that defence wouldn't have felt so bad. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, you've seen a few horror shows following Vancouver FC this season. A couple of fives, couple of 6 goals at home.
It was only 1-6 at home, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1-6 at home, 1-5, 2 fives, because Cavalry scored 5 as well.
Yeah.
The poor man that was responsible for picking the ball out of the net so many times over this season, more than any time in his career, which I did ask him a couple of weeks ago when we had our end of season chat. We can laugh about it now.
He appreciated that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he wasn't laughing at the time. But this week I got a chance to sit down with Vancouver FC captain, goalkeeper Callum Irving, man that came through the Whitecaps Academy. When you think back, we used to watch him back in 2010, 2011 in that fantastic Whitecaps under-18 side that like Ben Fisk came through that, Ben McKendry.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant team. They got to the USSDA championship game, sadly lost that one. So
was that against Dallas?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was such a good team. Callum was such a standout then. Always had high hopes he was going to sign a homegrown deal. Didn't work out. Went away to college with Kentucky.
Well, he was one of the people who got the short end of the stick of MLS.
Rightly shafted, yes.
Yeah.
We spoke about that because I've never actually really spoken to him about that time. So talked about that, coming through the Whitecaps Academy, his career so far, and his time with Vancouver FC. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy our feature interview for this episode with Callum Irving.
Goalkeeper.
Callum, I know it wasn't really the season that you hoped for. There was ups, there was downs. When you look back on it now, what's your general thoughts on it? I know there was a lot of excitement going into it, and I listened back to a couple of the chats we had before, and you did know it was a young team, and it could maybe have gone either way, that they would all have to kind of play to their strength. How did you see this season play out?
Obviously, I think disappointing when you miss out on the playoffs. Obviously, the majority of teams in this league make the playoffs, and so you want to be a part of that majority and not the minority that doesn't. I think regardless of being a first-year team, regardless of being a young team, the people involved with this club are ambitious, and I'm one of those people. I come to work every day with the ultimate goal of winning on the weekend and then turning that into a championship at the end of the year. And the end result, I would say, is disappointing, considering looking at it through a sort of a black and white lens. But when you see the work that got put in daily from the guys, from such a young group and experienced group, and kind of the additions we made midway through the year and the impact that they had, and kind of the resilience of everybody, I think I can look at it as a success in that way. There were so many positives to take, and I thought the fact that we fought until the end and picked up some really good results at the end of the season to kind of show our fans and show the league that, in spite of everything, we weren't just going to pack it in. I was so impressed by that and impressed by the guys' resilience. And so, naturally, results-wise, disappointed, but beyond that, extremely proud of everything that we accomplished.
I think that there's a lot to take into next year. And as you said, that was one of the big things I took from the team. It would have been so easy to let your heads go down. And when you're shipping 5-6 goals and you're just not getting the rub of the green from the officials and everything seems to be going against you, it would have been so easy just to kind of quit. But I think those mid-season changes and just the attitude that the team showed, there's so much I think that the fans and the players and the whole club can look forward to now for 2024.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I've been on many a team, successful and non-successful, where as the season wears on, you just get tired of training with the same people, doing the same things, preparing for the weekend. It can become tiresome and it can become grueling, and people who are on the fringes of the squad can get restless, and people can start clashing. And I've seen it, happen time and time again. And yet with a squad that's kind of so young and so so new to this and dealing with so much adversity in so many ways, to not have it succumb to that. I mean, honestly, I don't think there was a single moment in training where there was a proper bust up, and that's pretty wild.
Yeah. I've
Considering
seen
that
a few
you're in a
in my time.
competitive, yeah, exactly. There's definitely room for it in football, and there's nothing exactly wrong with it at times. Guys can be competitive and release some emotion, but I think there wasn't any moments where you thought, okay, this is just getting out of hand. We're losing our heads here. Guys are giving up. It just got stronger and stronger as the season went to those final stages. And I mean, I think when you even look within the matches that we played within the 90 minutes, kind of what we showed in terms of going up a goal, teams coming back, and then us coming back, it's like we, even within a 90-minute period, we showed that we were, not giving up. And so, yeah, I think when you have that kind of mentality, you hope to continue it into the next season with the core group that you have, and then make some key additions that can kind of, add on quality, add on mentality, add on experience, and try and make that happen a little more often than not, and not put ourselves in such a tough position.
For you personally, obviously wearing the captain's armband, you take a lot of pride in that, but it puts a lot of pressure on you as well. Did you feel added pressure when the results aren't going your way, that, oh, I'm the experienced guy, I'm the goalkeeper, the defence is shipping goals, I need to do something about this, and maybe try a little bit too hard almost at times?
I think naturally, you're always going to look towards yourself first and foremost. That's what everybody should be doing when things are going wrong, is look at what you're doing and how you can help the situation, right? Try not to point any fingers. And like you said, as the captain of the team, and for a long time, the oldest guy on the team until Renan, we signed Renan, thankfully. It was, I was definitely, looking at myself and how I could try and, help the guys, and whether that's even, me trying to play better, or just, offering advice and counseling to guys who may need it. I was definitely looking for solutions throughout the year along with the staff, but personally, pressure, it's just, you're always going to feel some sort of a pressure, but the way I've learned over the years to kind of handle that and deal with it is to just maintain consistency in your preparation. That for me is the easiest way to combat any pressure that you may be feeling, is, regardless of the game, regardless of winning or losing, you have to show up at the same time for training, do the same prehab, train with the same attitude, do the same recovery, go to bed at the same time, eat the same things, like not changing, trying to be a better pro just because you're losing a few games, or, thinking you can relax because you're winning a few. So that's kind of how I dealt with that, in terms of trying not to put too much on myself and take it on, because ultimately football is 11 guys plus the bench and people in the squad. So one guy, to me, the keeper, I can't change everything. But I could try and just be consistent in my example that, regardless of results, I'm trying to be the same guy, and then hope, some people may follow that, and we can kind of get out of it through that.
I mean, it must be tough though when you've got so many first-time pros, and like Rob mentioned at the end of season stuff, that with Renan coming in, guys are seeing what his routine is like and how he eats, and he's been in the game for, like, some of them weren't even born, I think, when he got his first contract as well, which is a crazy thing. But it's like they've started to pay attention to that and turn up earlier and go to the gym earlier and change their eating habits. So I guess it's just like an education, and that kind of comes with having a young squad. And then next year, those young guys will learn, and the new guys coming in, they can then learn from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of football, right? It's the nature of a lot of things, but it's especially prominent within football, just because it's such a game where experience counts, and you're not going to know everything at 18 years old, especially if Canada, we're still working on a football culture and what it means to be a professional. And the CPL is, I think, doing a great job at teaching young players how to be professionals at an earlier age. Because, you get a guy who comes in at 16 to 18 years old, and they have a great attitude. They have immense potential, but do they know how to apply both of those things in the right way every single day in order to find results as soon as possible and contribute to a team, right? And so when you have guys like Renan, who is a absolute physical specimen, and it's not because he was just born that way. It's because he puts in the work on the daily. And at 37, he's training hard every single day. He's doing his recovery. He's doing his prehab. He's eating well. He's doing extra work. It's just guys see that. They see the success that he's had. And they also see how humble and approachable he is. And I think that that's another key, is that you have to have that mentality that, despite what you've done in your career, you still are doing the same things, and you're also doing it in a humble way. You don't expect to play just because of the career you've had. Renan plays because of what he does in training every day, and because of how he takes care of himself. It's not just because he played in Serie A and did this. That happened years ago. You can't just rest on your laurels once you've hit those marks. And so he's been fantastic since he's come in. Couldn't ask for a more humble, nice guy who just wants to fit in with everybody and enjoy his football. And those guys are super important. And we're hoping to add probably a few more guys, maybe not the Renans, because those are hard to come by, but add a few more guys with experience that can, set an example, whether it's vocally or just, showing what they do. Because again, I've said many times, we have so many good young pieces here with great attitudes that want to learn. They just need to have those examples, and it helps when you have an example in your position.
Oh yeah, like we chatted with him last week as well. He feels he can go another five seasons as well, which is like phenomenal. And I wouldn't doubt him. No. Yeah, I mean, looking at your own career, I mean, it's been so long since you were in the Whitecaps Academy. I still think of all the guys though at that time, and it's like I had to look to see how old you were, and it's like, well, yeah, of course you're 30 now, because that was like back in 2010, 2011. Yeah. But I mean, does that time and your time at college, does that just seem like an age away now?
It doesn't. I think it's like anything. It's like when you look at it within the time in between, you go, wow, a lot of stuff has happened. But then when you look back on just that on its own, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember playing PDL games out in Abbotsford and having the Southsiders come out and doing the Ben 10 cheers for Ben Fisk, and supporting us against Abbotsford and against Victoria, and going down and playing in the Academy League and everything. So it's all so vivid and it seems so close, but then when you reflect upon all the in between, you go, oh well, no, it's been 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
I'm not in my early 20s anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when you were coming through the academy, when you were at Kentucky, like that, it's nice to see so many of those guys in the CPL, because at that point, if you didn't make it in MLS, then you maybe had USL, depending on if guys wanted to go down to the States, but options were so limited. And then, like, obviously when you came out of Kentucky, with the way that the draft is, as a Canadian, highly rated keeper, but because you're Canadian and all the rules, no one wanted to touch you. So now you've got those other pathways for these players. I mean, it's fantastic. Did you think that day would come?
Honestly, no. Like, in terms of a Canadian professional league coming to fruition within my career, you always hear kind of rumblings about it. But it all just seems like a pipe dream based upon, the reality of what kind of gone on within the country, and the route that the professional teams had taken in going into MLS. It kind of seemed like, okay, well, that's the route. We have our three teams in the three kind of big cities within the country. And it'll be a long time, probably long after I'm done playing, that we get a chance at having a, strictly Canadian professional league. So yeah, it's crazy to think about guys who are able to come out of college and, they're Canadian guys. They went down to the NCAA, and, maybe it doesn't work out in MLS, but, somebody like a Dan Nimick, I think, got drafted by the Whitecaps.
Yeah. I was very high on him. I was like, great, he's here. And then he's done fantastic for himself.
Yeah. And he had a chance to go play for Halifax and had a great season, and has been talked about a lot. And who knows what will happen this offseason. Maybe that'll turn into something, an opportunity at a higher level for him. But the fact that he was able to, play in the CPL, and, other guys have been able to do that, it's so great. And it's a great avenue into the professional game. And, some people may become, lifers of sorts. Some people may use it to jump off into, post-career in football, and others use it to jump up to a higher level. But regardless, it's a fantastic option for so many Canadians, and it's just great that it's here.
I don't think I've ever really properly asked you this. We had a very brief chat at some pre-season tournament in Portland. I seem to think when you had come in at Houston, and it's like that draft day. How frustrating was that for you? Because you got a GA, didn't you?
It wasn't a GA. It was a senior contract.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're watching that play out, at what point did you think to yourself, "Yeah, this is not going my way"?
Honestly, before I even got in that room on draft day, I felt like I don't have a clue who's going to draft me. And at the time, I don't want to speak ill upon people, but the agency I was working with at the time was one of the bigger agencies, and they got me my senior deal, but ultimately I earned my own senior deal as I was, a first team All-American. It's kind of a no-brainer as an agent to bring first team All-American to the MLS and say, this guy has offers to go play, in overseas in Scandinavia or something, right? You guys should sign him to a contract before he leaves so that, he'll stay. So I pretty much earned that contract, I think, on my own. And when you're at the combine, you get interviewed by teams. Generally, that when you're there, all the teams, all the GMs, all the head coaches are there, and they'll bring guys up to their rooms in the hotel or whatever meeting room they have, and they'll interview guys, get to know them, people that they're interested in. And I didn't have a single interview my whole time I was at the combine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not one team interviewed me, and my agents were kind of nonchalant about it. And then it came up to draft day, and I ended up in Baltimore for the draft. And I'm walking in with my my coach was there from Kentucky, and my agent, and I was asking him, who's like, so is anybody interested? Like, what's going on today? And they were kind of brushing it off and saying, oh, maybe Columbus, maybe Chicago. But at the time, Columbus had like maybe 12, 13 guys on their roster. And Chicago had Sean Johnson, and then they signed 28-year-old Matt Lamson and Patrick McLean. So I was kind of like, okay, sat there the whole time and nobody drafted me, and then went home, and then nobody drafted me in the supplemental rounds either. And my agent called me right after and was like, don't worry, we're going to make this work. But immediately at that point, contract gone, right? They void the contract if you don't get drafted. So, it was one of those weird ones where it's like, I'm supposed to be happy. I'm signing a deal, and it was a solid MLS contract as they were at that point. And yet I was kind of like, this doesn't feel like it's going to happen. I wasn't getting any indication. So it was weird. And immediately after, I went to the national team as well. So I got my first call up, and so they kept on. Morgan Quarry kept calling me and being like, okay, well, like, who's drafting you? What's going on? Because at that point, they really wanted to avoid unattached FC. That was like, the kind of stigma around a lot of the national team call-ups at that point was that everybody was on unattached FC. That was the biggest supplier of the national team. And so they really wanted to associate me with a team that was either drafting me or, something along those lines. And I kept on telling them, like, I don't know, I don't have a team. And then finally we went through the draft, and they ended up just putting University of Kentucky for me on the announcement for the roster, which I was proud of because I was happy to be from there. And, but yeah, it was an odd time. And I ended up back home at the beginning of March with no club. And it was like, whoa, what the heck just happened over these last 2 months?
It's just, MLS just in general, all the drafts and things so weird. And then, like, here in Vancouver, one of the great things you can say about the Whitecaps Academy is they've produced so much top goalkeeping talent, and they're still throwing them out. But you're in that position where only one guy is going to play. And, like, look at you this year. I'm sure you're gutted that you missed that one game. But it's like, you've got a keeper that's going to play every game. You're a backup somewhere. It's like, what do you do? How do you keep a mindset, though, as a keeper when you're kind of sitting there and you're like, well, I need this guy to get injured for me to play, but obviously I can't think that way because I'm a good teammate.
Yeah, it's tough, but ultimately, I mean, like, I don't have to sign the contract. I don't have to be a goalkeeper. I can do, a number of other jobs. And ultimately when you sign up for this, you have to accept that as a reality. And if you don't, then you won't last. It's just impossible mentally to not accept the fact that one guy plays. And so you have to do everything you can to show the coach that if there is a slim chance that he should take an opportunity on you, there's no doubt in their mind. That's like the number one job. You've been a good teammate. You supported the guy who's playing, but you pushed him and you never stop competing. And you always keep that good attitude. And if you do all those things and at the end of the season, your opportunity never came, at least you can look back and say it wasn't because of me. There was a difference of opinion. The other guy played lights out and never, deserved to be out of the goal. Whatever it was, you just don't want to look back at yourself at the end of the year and think, I could have done more. I should have had a better attitude. I should have trained harder. I should have been a better teammate, because a lot of times an opportunity will come. And the coaches are in that room discussing all the time. You're not going to win every game. After a loss, they're going to be discussing, how do we fix this? And if your name comes up in that position and there's any doubt in their mind, that could be on you. You don't want to give them any doubt. So that's kind of the main. I've been on that side. I played every minute for Ottawa. 2017 was the Fans Player of the Year, and then got bumped down to third string for whatever reason. Yeah. Max Crepeau had a great year. All credit to Max. He didn't deserve to be taken out once he started playing, but the way it happened was unfortunate, I think, for me. But then I ended up being a third string the year after playing every minute. And that year, I think I saved myself because I tried to remain a good teammate. Obviously, it was harder at times than others, and still tried to train well. Got released at the end of the season. And then in March that next year, Julian de Guzman calls me and says, hey, we'd love to have you back. We have a different goalkeeper coach. Things aren't working out with somebody we're trying to bring in on loan. They got hurt. We know you had a good attitude last year. The head coach is willing to bring you back in. Would you like to come? And I came. And then from the moment I came, I think I sat on the bench the first 2 games and then played every minute after that, for a club that had released me a few months before. And I only got that opportunity because I didn't just completely pie it off the year before and go, hey, I'm the third string now. You guys don't care about me. Well, here's a middle finger and I'm going to whine and moan and blah, blah, blah. I tried to keep a good attitude and then it directly paid off for me the next season. So, I've seen all sides of it as a goalkeeper in the professional game and even in college and in the Whitecaps.
That's true.
I've learned it. I've learned it the hard way. I remember playing so well with the Whitecaps, and Brian Sylvestre just got brought down every weekend to play in the games, and I just couldn't. I was like, I can't comprehend this. And
we couldn't either. So it was But
Reagan was super helpful with that, and he gave me a book to read. And the biggest thing was just learning to focus on what you can control. Right, that's like the number one advice that I would give anybody, and that helped me a lot then. It helped me a lot in college, and it helped me a lot as a pro. So
when did you know then that you wanted to be a professional footballer? Like, I know your dad played at SFU and played locally, and football was all around you, but when did you know that that's what you wanted to do, and when did you know that you actually had what it takes to make it in the game?
I mean, I'd say I probably seriously started watching football on television probably around like 7 years old. I'd say like that's when I knew what I was doing, and I was getting up at 7 a.m. to watch Sportsnet on the weekend with Craig Forrest and Jerry Dobson, and watching Man United, play, because that was pretty much the only team they'd ever put on. So maybe about 7 years old, I started seriously watching. And then when I got to about 10 years old, I started training out at TSS in Richmond back in the day. And when I started training out there, that was when it was like, oh yeah, like I am going to be a professional. Even though I thought it in my head before that, when I was like 10 years old, I was like, this is it, and 2 years later, I went over to Europe for 3 weeks to go play with a travel team with Bart Chauffeur as the head coach. And that just reinforced it even more. But then as far as knowing that I was going to be a pro, I think there were moments where I felt like I had it. But even, after my sophomore season in college where I had a really good year, I still had no idea how I was going to make it professional. So, I was 20 years old then, and I was still unsure about exactly if it was going to happen or how it was going to happen. So it was a process of ups and downs, I would say. High moments and low moments of like, is this for me? And then high moments of like, oh, I'm going to sign a homegrown with the Whitecaps for sure,
Yeah, I mean, we all expected you to, really, but I mean, again, it's the nature of having goalkeepers and the opportunities. And talking of highs, then the championship with Pacific. Do you still get goosebumps thinking about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a special night, obviously, but it's just I just enjoyed being a part of that team. So many good guys on that team and so many good players. And when you go through such a long year like we did, with COVID the year before, and then even having that kind of the season started at the end of June, beginning of July, and we went to a bubble for a month that year as well. We did like a 5-month preseason essentially, where we were just going at each other for 5 months straight, not playing anybody else, doing workouts, double days, like for 5 months. It's just insane. And then to culminate in December our season, and play 2 away games in the playoffs and end up winning in the final. It was amazing. And for me, I pretty much never won anything. I always was a second place. I was second place in the Academy League.
Yeah.
I won a regular season championship my senior year in Kentucky, but never won our conference tournament when I was there. Always got knocked out first round of the NCAAs. Like each of my junior, senior year, we just had terrible injuries at the end of the season that derailed us. And then, RGV, my first year as a pro, we were having a great season, got knocked out dramatically in the first round in the Western Conference. And yeah, it's just like, I was always kind of there, but not there. And so, you start to wonder, they always talk about people who are winners and they have these winners mentality. And it's like a winner just wins. Like some people just know how to win. And I was like, I guess I'm not one of them. I don't know what else I got to do. But then when you finally get that first big win, that championship, it's so vindicating. And just kind of, you realize, okay, the way I am as a person and a player can be conducive towards success. Because sometimes you can doubt yourself when, you're not finding that success. So yeah, I still look back fondly upon that night.
Well, hopefully it's not your last championship. So
hopefully not.
There's more to come. What do the next few weeks and months look like for you then? Because I know training starts at the end of January again for next year, which doesn't seem that far away. So are you just going to take the next few weeks to kind of relax a little bit?
Yeah, we're just finishing our postseason training now. And then probably take a break from football maybe for a month or so. Honestly, for me, at this point, I'm not going to forget how to play. So I think taking some time off from actually just definitely catching balls and hitting the ground. I might still go kick around, but for me, mostly it's getting back in the gym, taking care of any little injuries that I have and making sure those don't carry over into next preseason. And then trying to get away and get a little bit of enjoyment. I'm planning on maybe going and playing some golf in Arizona with a few teammates, family members, ex-teammates, friends. Nice. And yeah, trying to do something like that, get some warm weather in. So yeah, but like anybody does, just try and get away from it for a little bit.
Cheers, Callum. You've had a great season. It's been fun watching you and catching up with you again, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Michael. See you later.
Cheers, Callum. Callum Irving there, always great to chat with Callie. We've known him now for over a decade. I said to him there, I had to look his age up, and I've said this to you before, and I said it on the show, I still think of these guys as so young, and yes. You say that, he's 30 now and stuff. Yeah,
and you're like, makes you feel even older than you are.
Yeah, but he remembers all this as if it was yesterday, and I mean, it was interesting hearing him talk about that like draft day experience. And he went into the draft, he signed that senior contract, so he had that MLS deal, but he's saying to his agent, what's going to happen here, because no club's shown any interest in taking me because I'm Canadian. And he was the highest rated keeper in the draft that year, yeah. But with the stupid MLS rules, it just wasn't to be, and it didn't work out, and he didn't get that MLS deal. And the problem that we've had here in Vancouver, which is a nice problem in one way, we've been a conveyor belt of goalkeeping talent through the Whitecaps Academy. And it's a spot where, barring injury or horrendous performances, you've got one guy that's pretty much going to play the whole year. And it's hard for these guys to get opportunities. And you've had Callum, you've had Marco Carducci that we'll be talking about in the next part. And it's one of those things, it's just, you're so grateful that you've got the CPL, that you've got that outlet for these guys to play. Now, Callum went and played USL, albeit for a Canadian team towards the end. He had 3 years at Ottawa, and he spoke there about the ups and downs at Ottawa, but then got the chance to go to Pacific, win a championship. And it was funny hearing him say, some players you see win all these trophies, and he hadn't won anything up to that point, and he's thinking to himself, maybe I'm just not one of these guys that's meant to win a championship. But now he's got one, and he wants another one. And I mean, you'd love to see him do it with Vancouver FC. Obviously, you definitely would. But for me, he was Vancouver FC's Player of the Year. And I know the Fanatics didn't give it to him. Was it Rocco Romeo that got yours?
Yeah, Rocco Romeo. That was the supporter one. I voted for Callum in the club one where he won.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would have been Callum followed by Gabby Bitar with the great end to the season that Gabby had. But I mean, as horrific as that first half of the season was with those goals that were getting shipped, most you could not pin on Callum. A couple you could, but you think of the saves that he made in some of those games as well. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, without those, that would have really got out of hand.
Yeah, you're right. There were a few moments where he'd want to have back maybe 2 or 3 that were really, really, really not at his standard. But yeah, on the whole, there were so many games, and there was games that he saved them, 1 points, and games where even when things were going bad, where he kept the morale from getting even worse, or like kept things to a respectable scoreline. So
I mean, even a couple of games I was at, there was some spectacular saves in that end point or end all 3 points. And we spoke about it when the signing was made. He's a great addition for the club, both on the pitch, off the pitch, in the community. A local lad, so likeable as well. And it's crazy to think that this is the first time in his pro career that he's had the chance to play in the Lower Mainland. Hadn't ever played a game here before, because when he was with the Toros in the USL, he didn't play in the game that they had against WFC2 here. Yeah. So crazy stuff. But a great addition to VFC. Hopefully he'll build on that for next year now.
For real. He's a quality guy. I have a lot of time for him. And yeah, really excited to hopefully see him, one day lift another CPL championship.
That'll be fantastic. Well, talking of CPL championships, talking of Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeping alumni. We'll talk about one of them next in that championship game from this year, because we're going to talk CPL in the next part, and we'll be back with that after this.
I'm David Edgar, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
This is my obsession. I am naked into the dark. Black flowers are falling from the sky. We make love before the invasion of the sun. Melts the flowers. Feel my presence. You ride into the dark.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part is the final song. It's always sad at this time of the month. It's the last song from our Artist of the Month from Italy. Gothic post-punk band They Die. From their debut album from 2020, Deviant Love. Tried to get a song that fitted in with Halloween. I was saying to Caitlin, oh, what one will I pick? And she was like, aren't they all like Halloween kind of songs? I was like, I guess so. So I went with one of the songs from their first album. That was Bride Into the Dark. We'll have a new Artist of the Month on the next show, and it'll be our last Artist of the Month for a while. Because next year I've got some plans for new stuff. We're not going to have an Artist of the Month.
December is your Christmas.
Yeah, and it's going to be our Festive 15 that we're going to do, which I need to actually start working on putting together. I'm torn as to who we're going to have for the last Artist of the Month. Maybe ever, but definitely for now. Got a couple of Scottish bands in mind. An old band from the 90s that I loved called Biss that are still going. They've got a new album out. They did the theme song to the Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff! Do, 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 do. So maybe them. Simon from Biffy Clyro, he's got his thrash metal band, Empire State Bastard. So they could be our Artist of the Month next month as well. Who's it going to be? Oh, it could be a surprise. Maybe I'll pluck some obscure foreign band as well. We'll see how we do with that. We'll get back to the football chat now. And we're going to talk CPL in this part. Little look at the CPL Championship, talk about a couple of games that we saw Vancouver FC as well this week. But I want to start things off by looking at the award winners in the CPL, because they had their ceremony on Thursday night. I haven't watched the ceremony, Zach. I did watch the start of it on Twitter because someone shared it with me and said, have you seen Gareth Wheeler do his Ricky Gervais style roast of the players and the managers at the start of the awards? No, I said. That does not sound like something I want to watch. Oh, you should, they said. It's terrible. And I watched it, and it was terrible. Did you see it?
I heard good things about the award show, except for that part. I did not watch it. I won't. I won't watch that. That's for sure.
Just to throw in one of the examples. He was trying to roast Patrice Geyser for being bald. Yeah.
So
that's what coaches and players want when they go to an awards ceremony.
All I'll say is it's not. I don't think it's an accident that he's doing less games on the calls.
Yeah. I like Adam Jenkins. I think he's a fantastic commentator. I'm glad he's getting to do those ones. Yeah. But we'll go through what awards there were. And you can say if there's any that you disagree with. There is a couple here that I would maybe have things with. But Tommy Wheeldon Jr., Coach of the Year. For me, absolutely. Because it's based on the regular season and everything that was done up to the championship game. And for me, Tommy deserves it.
Yeah, remind me, did Bobby win last year?
Oh, I can't remember last week, never mind last year.
I think he's never won, which is so
weird.
No,
he hasn't. He hasn't ever won Coach of the Year.
Yeah. So
we talked about that last year.
I don't disagree with Tommy, but it's really weird that the dude has not won Coach of the Year. And it feels like, I think this year, I think it would have been like, yeah, Bobby's got to win. But then Tommy had the year he had, and like, yeah, okay, we gotta give it to Tommy because we'll get roasted if we, no pun intended to what you were just talking about. But we'll get roasted. We'll get roasted if we don't give it to him for what he's done,
especially by Tommy.
And we give it as a legacy to Bobby. That would be really bad.
Cavalry swept the board pretty much. Defender of the year was Daan Klomp, and I think he's had a fantastic year. He also got the player of the year, and he was my vote from weeks ago. And I spoke to Tommy about that, saying that he was who I felt was the player of the year. And I didn't think he'd get it because defenders don't seem to get these awards. They usually give it to attackers.
Which is great to see. Well, but the thing is, he partly gets it because he does contribute going forward as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's not just known for his defending, even though he's one of the league's best or the best defender. He also scores, right? So and helps create.
So let me throw this out to you. Daan Klomp to the Whitecaps. Too inexperienced for what they're needing?
You never know. I don't. I forget how old Dan is now.
I think he's 25. I'll double check that. He's still fairly young.
I feel like I feel like the Whitecaps, if they're going to take people from CPL, it's going to be more like their attempts to.
He is 25.
Yeah, it'd be more like their attempts to get like a TJ Tahid, which they've failed at doing.
Yeah,
it's going to be a younger.
I don't think he's going to help them in the centre back department.
No, he wouldn't. but I don't know if that's the.
But that's the exact age of the player that they need. A guy that's got experience, come through the Dutch system, was with NAC Breda.
Yeah, NAC Breda. Yeah, but I don't think he has the pro experience that they're looking for, right? Like in the same way that you have told the story multiple times of how Robbo has told you he would have got roasted for bringing in players who could score by the bucketsfuls in lower level the UK pyramid.
Yeah, he wanted to bring in the top scorer from the National League, but he knew if he brought him in, it'd be like, what are you doing? He would
get roasted. And I think there might be a little bit of that with the Whitecaps. If it worked out, they'd be great. If it didn't work out, like didn't go really well, I think they would feel like their fans would be like, "Will you let us down again by bringing in someone that's not right for this role?"
If I'm looking at depth, though, I put him ahead of Karifa Yao, Mateo Capagna.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you're looking at that.
I think he'd be ahead of Brown, maybe even.
I was going to say I'd maybe have him ahead of Laborda as well. So,
Laborda, yeah. Laborda for sure, I think.
I mean, it depends. If Dan wants to come and not play a starting role, but maybe just get some minutes here and there, earn his spot, maybe earn being a starter.
Because remember, too, they've brought in Amir Didic to look at him from CPL and decided to pass, right? Yep. So
I feel Daan Klomp's a better player than Amir.
I was just going to say, Daan Klomp's different and definitely in this moment a more highly rated player. But yeah, I don't know that that's the avenue the Whitecaps want to go down. But
probably not. I was high on Klomp last year, and I've been even higher on him this year, and it's great to see that he's picked up these 2 awards, to be honest.
Yeah, it would be interesting, though, for sure, if that's the route they wanted to go.
The CPL Players Player of the Year went to another Whitecaps Academy alumni, Ali Musi.
Yeah.
I was also, see if his goal had won it, which we'll come to the game in a second. I had the famous Ay Musi. Ay Musi song that I was going to have to kick off this part, and then didn't get it. I want to have a sit down chat with Ali, actually, just about his career and stuff, so we can play it then, I guess.
Yeah, I want to talk about him when we talk about the game.
Yeah, we'll save that. Golden Boot, your good chum, Meyer Bevan. He went down a couple of times in the final.
Michael, he doesn't dive, he just severely embellishes.
Well, he fell over the ball in the one that set the goal up.
That was quite comical.
The commentators are like, he might have been clipped there. He fell over the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, Meyer Bevan and Ollie Bassett shared that Golden Boot award.
I was too bad for him. Yeah.
These last 2 are the ones I'm not sure about. So, best Canadian under-21 player, Matteo De Bruyne. It was between him, James Cameron, and Kwasi Poku. Surely Poku deserved that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I know obviously Valor was the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
De Bruyne, I think only played.
I was like De Bruyne. I couldn't remember how to pronounce it.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but anyways, he only played, I think, in the latter portion of the season. But apparently he did play Coel. Obviously, I didn't watch a lot of Valor except for when we were playing them. But I do know one thing I do remember about him is kind of, for me, surprising at that time. Adam Jenkins, the aforementioned Adam Jenkins, included him in his team of the year which I thought was like, wow. I think, wow, he must have really stood out like more than I noticed in the games when we played them and any other time when I was watching highlights.
Yeah, it never
or
stood
games.
out for me either.
But so I
Whereas
know
Poku did.
there's a lot of people who are high on him. I think it was awesome for James Cameron to be on the list,
Yeah.
as he was a standout again, another one of the five local players who all made significant contributions for Vancouver FC this year. And yeah, he's already I don't know how much we can talk about. He's already expanding his development. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, interesting. So he's gone on loan or training somewhere, is what you're saying, reading between the lines. The last award, the Golden Glove. Now, if they'd given this after Saturday's final, I'd have been like, yeah, Tristan Henry deserved it. He had some fantastic saves in that final. How can you not give that to Marco Carducci? That one smacked off, we don't want to give Cavalry every single award.
No, I am someone who's been highly critical of Tristan Henry in general, because he is the kind of keeper who will one game win you the game and the next game lose you the game. And he had moments like that both those types of moments this year, but he had a number of times where I think he did more of the winning than the losing games for them this year, and I think that's why he got it. I mean, there was the game, was it against Atletico Ottawa, where I think he stopped a penalty and made like 2 or 3 incredible saves and won them a point in Ottawa that they had no reason to expect to get. And he did it a few other times. Did he still make gaffes? Yes. I would have obviously preferred Marco Carducci had won this because I appreciate him so deeply and dearly, but I'm not as put off by this one as I might have been in previous seasons when he's won. And yeah, and then if you want, yeah, like you said, that one save he made in the final was unbelievable.
The third goalkeeper that was nominated as well was Valor's Ryan Yesley, which might surprise people from the bottom team in the league, but we just spoke about how well Callum Irving had done for a team that was down the bottom as well. But did you see the tweet? I retweeted it from Jordan Santiago, who is an ex-pro with Cardiff, with SC Veendam. He also was the former head goalkeeper coach at Cavalry and has worked with West Ham in youth and stuff as well. He was said about Yesley's nomination, would love to see the stats behind these CPL nominations. Yesley is terrible, not even a debate. He is bottom 3 goalkeeper in the league. I've seen better hands on a snake.
Yeah, I saw you retweet that. So I had a good conversation with ARG about this.
Oh.
When we were
AGR
at
even?
Sorry.
Unless, arg, you're talking to a pirate. Is it because I look like Johnny Depp?
Oh, man.
Call back to the last episode.
Thank you for editing this out, Michael.
Oh, this is staying in.
Alex, I'm sorry. AGR. AGR and Alex and I were talking about this at the Vancouver FC Media Day when we were hanging out afterwards. And he said to me, because I said I was surprised by it. Obviously, I know for people like yourself, Michael, all you can think about is his performance at Swangard in front of with a horrible team in front of him.
I've never seen a big keeper get smaller as he dived for a ball.
Yeah. But what Alex was reminding me of that night is actually he has some incredible stats for the year. So that guy was asking, well, what are the stats? And yeah, Alex was telling me that he had done some digging on that or some deep diving on that. And the stats were like he was in the upper echelons of the league or whatever, or even maybe in some cases top of the league in certain things. I think he was like top of the leagues or one of the top of the leagues for shots faced and shots saved. Obviously, because Valor was not the worst team in the league.
Yeah,
but,
I imagine he would have faced a lot.
But yeah, so his statistics supposedly were really really good. And so I think
I've seen better hands on a snake could be up there for our quote of the year in the end of year awards.
Yeah, I like that one too.
It's quite a harsh burying of the guy though, but yeah.
I do agree with him in terms of I was telling Alex I would have chosen someone else. I feel like the CPL. Yeah, I'm not saying all the keepers are amazing or anything, but I feel like it's one of the positions where most teams, or like all teams, are at least solid to good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's and obviously it's a position where you can only field one player at a time, but um, I think it's not like you're not like, oh, like I think people's biggest issue with the league, you would say that the position that needs the most fixing is obviously refereeing, but
Yeah, well, touching on that then, I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch Mark Noonan's whole State of the League Commissioner's address yet. But one of the things that he did mention, which we can talk about, is he was asked about VAR, and he said they've looked at it. It is expensive. So what they have to weigh up just now is, do they want to spend the money on that, or do they want to spend that money in developing another area of the game in the league, such as affording more under-18 spots on the roster? And to me, the answer is yes, they do want to spend it on VAR, because there's League One for developing under-18 players, under-21 players, under-23 players. It's like, this is meant to be the Canadian Premier League. And this goes back to our discussion that we had before, is should the under-21 become under-23 minutes, and should they be pushing for having older players in the league? This league needs to spend the money on VAR. Don't spend it on youth development. Allow the other leagues below the CPL to develop these younger players, have affiliations that you could bring them through, have some kind of mechanism even for having call-ups or whatever. But this money needs to get spent on VAR.
I would agree with you, because for two reasons. One is, yeah, it hurts the credibility of the league when every week everyone is seeing the massive mistakes that are not being able to be corrected through a system like VAR or even VAR Lite. And two, because I think that, one, they are doing good work at developing young Canadians with their under 21 rules, like we've talked about in the past. And they're not set up to, at this moment, to have their own academies and all that kind of stuff. So I agree with you. They do need to work with local clubs. They do need to work with League One clubs wherever they are located, if they have them. And that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I would agree with you that at this moment, I think for giving the league better credibility, I think having VAR Lite would be extremely helpful in how it's perceived, which can then therefore down the road enable them to grow to a place where, yeah, if they want to expand more spots for U18s or whatever, they could, or 18-year-olds, they could. I mean, they did take a step this year, or they already took one step this year with that. The deal that TJ was on was part of this, bringing in younger players.
And James Cameron, I think, was on it as well. And there's a guy in Forge as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And so it gave, I think, every club 2 new spots or whatever. So they've already done that. I think that's a good step. But yeah, VAR is something that I would agree with you is desperately needed, or some kind of help for the officials is desperately needed.
The other thing that I've seen from Noonan, and I will look at the whole thing, and then we can like break that down in our kind of December CPL roundup show. He was asked about expansion, and on Friday he had said, yeah, there's been 15 notes of interest. On Saturday at half-time, he mentioned there's been another one signed on the Saturday, so there's 16 notes of interest of bringing new teams, expansion teams, into the CPL, which I had a word with someone within the CPL arena. I'll keep it vague. I think it was a very big surprise to them, because they were like, that's not what I'd heard, but maybe.
Yeah, so I think I haven't asked about this in great detail in a while, but yeah, there are groups that are looking at things, but that doesn't mean things are as far down the road as that. It doesn't mean there's going to be 16 new teams in 4 years.
No, he did say that he expects to have 2 new teams in 2025.
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
And you're always hoping Quebec's definitely one, Kelowna has been murmured for quite a while as well.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Be nice aside from when the weather's horrible, but hot and cold, because in League One there's been issues the last 2 summers with getting games played with smoke, with heat.
Yeah, with the smoke,
everything like that as well. So, I mean, that's stuff that you have to obviously watch out for. But, I mean, hopefully that just shows that the league is in a good state. It's the 5th year of the league, the 5th championship game. And for the 4th time in 5 years, Forge FC are the CPL end of season champions, lifting the brand new North Star Cup, which is a great improvement on the microwave plate.
Yeah, it was nice to see them actually do some good work there, because
it's really nice.
It was very underwhelming that first year with the microwave plate syndrome. And I also love how the fact that they've now made the league winners get a shield, and this is actual cup, and like I think they've taken good steps. I think there's some people involved that are influencing that in a good way. So happy for that. What do you think of the design of the trophy? It looks like
I like it.
It looks like a combination of like 2 or 3 other different trophies.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't get, I mean, the MLS Cup one is always awkward to me because it looks like it's supposed to be like the child of the Champions League trophy or something. And this also has that feel to it with the the ears, the arms,
just with
but
the
also
curves.
Yeah, but it also the middle of it reminds me of like the UEFA Cup or the Europa League trophy, and so it's got these potential homages or nods to these other things, but is its own kind of has its own kind of flavor as well. So really, really, really happy for that, and I really like. I mean, we saw Cavalry lifted a few weeks ago now, but I really like having a plate, obviously being, like they do in Germany, like they do in Holland, and I like that for the league.
Yeah. It was a fantastic final, maybe a bit cagey for the first 75 minutes of the regulation time. Then the game kind of just exploded in an extra time. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, that's the only part I got to watch live, but definitely no.
You got the great part then.
No love lost between these two teams on the pitch.
No, but I mean, we won't break everything down, but 3 absolutely cracking goals.
Yeah.
Ali Musi, so delighted for him.
Mm-hmm.
That strike, it was pinpoint. And I was a bit like, because I didn't know the score, as I mentioned at the start, I was watching it on delay. When I saw them celebrating the way that they were celebrating, the immediate thought I had in my head was, this is not over yet. Don't take your eye off the ball here. It feels like you're celebrating because you think you've won it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them for the release. And the joke,
no. But you've got to keep that focus. And I think they let that slip.
Yeah, I agree with you that, I had that feeling of like, they need to dial in now. It's not, don't put up the mission accomplished.
Yeah.
It's time to keep fighting. It was a great strike. Again, like you mentioned earlier, Meyer Bevan with his what looked like at least a hint of his antics, and yet gets a crazy assist while lying on the ground after going down easy, and it paid off enormously in the moment for his team. Ali Musi with a great finish. The one thing I wanted to say about Ali Musi, that was and I was watching, I think like you, I think I also had the audio down for this when I was watching it. He looked really disappointed to be taken off in that extra time.
Yeah.
And I did not have the volume on, and aside from his expression, I thought, why are you taking off one of your, if not your most creative player, or who can cause the most concern going forward in terms of maintaining possession, of someone who can run the ball to the corner and probably hold it there for a little bit, who can be an outlet if you need to release pressure, all these kinds of things. I know it's a long game and he'd put in a shift and all that kind of stuff, but I thought when he came off, I was like, I don't like that. I don't think that's the best. And they kept on going. I don't know if they kept on going back to him because he scored the goal again. I wasn't listening to the audio, but man, he looked like his dog died the rest of the game on the bench. And then after the game, obviously, like the rest of them were incredibly sad. And
I like, as soon as the final whistle went, I haven't seen anything after that.
Okay.
I didn't want to see Ford celebrate again, so I just switched it off and then just focused on the Whitecaps game. I also had AEW Collision to try and catch up with.
Oh,
Yeah,
how was that?
I got to bed at 3 o'clock and ended up waking up today at just after 11.
Oh, nice. But no,
But
that is,
yeah, it was a great goal, 101st minute,
yeah,
and then it was 2 minutes into first half stoppage time.
yeah.
What a strike! Baddy banga, baddy binga, scored a banger.
Yeah.
That was an absolute beauty. I like Tommy's comments afterwards of, yeah, if you lose the final with one worldie, fair enough, but we've lost it to 2. I just can't believe it.
Well, I think it was after that goal went in. You saw the melee that Borges got into, right?
Yeah.
I thought in the moment, I thought, oh, he could get sent off here. And I thought, oh, it's a final. They're not going to send him off. I can't remember who it was he got into it with now.
He got into it with not the person that...
Was it Trafford? It was Trafford. Yeah, it was Charlie Trafford.
Yeah, because Trafford got a booking. Trafford...
Everyone hates
both
Trafford.
the goals. He's on the line as the ball just flies over his head for both of them.
Yeah, that's true.
He's not a popular guy.
I take it. I take it. A lot of people don't like to play against him. I didn't mean him personally.
Oh yeah,
to play against him. But yeah, So
I think Borges, because I might be mixing this up because there was a lot going on that I was watching last night and I was tired. I think I put it back because I was like, oh, it's a Stramash. I want to hear this with the sound up. I'm pretty sure Borges said he stepped on me. I think that was the incident.
Oh, okay.
And when you see it back, Trafford does go over him and his studs do go in his thigh.
Oh, right. Again, there's no VAR.
No.
So players know that maybe they can get closer to or slightly cross the line and maybe they can get away with it. Which you never want to do in a final, but...
Because I was watching it, and I was like, oh, if I was a player just now, and Borges was squaring up to me, I'd be in his face going, you're a shadow of your former self. What have you done since you've come back? And that's the exact thing that went through my head. He'd have had a good answer for me. He'd have been right in my face after scoring the winner.
Yeah, that goal.
What a winner. To win any game... But to win a championship with an Olympico?
Yeah.
Do you feel Marco could have done more? This might surprise you to know where I put the blame. There was nobody on the back post.
No, wasn't there? I thought there was.
Nobody on the back. Trafford was close to the back post, but he was closer to Marco. He was not on the back post. If someone was on the back post... There's a pretty good chance they would have headed that away.
Maybe you're right. I feel bad for Marco because he is closer to the near post and or takes a step in that direction, and then it goes over his head. And I was always gutted for him.
I just gutted for him and everyone. It was like, oh,
yeah. And I sent him a message to that effect. But yeah. Here's the thing I want to say. So yeah, it's great. It was a great goal. It's great for the league. It wasn't the kind of Olympico, Michael, where you're like, oh, like it's all on the keeper, like that's just dodgy keeping.
Oh yeah, no.
Or you're like, oh yeah, it was a windy day at BMO or windy day in Hamilton, and like they just got lucky. He just swung that in there, right? Like there appears to be at least some intent from Borges. Like this is not like Ronaldinho at the World Cup against England, where it's like, yeah, he was crossing that and it's somehow.
Well, he's done it before, exactly the same spot in 2019.
Exactly. So it's quality for the league and really, really awesome. What I wanted to say, though, was I really, and I said this to Marco as well, I really, really appreciated, and I know it's part of gamesmanship or, the mental battle or the war of words and whatever. I really appreciated Tommy's pregame comments going into the final where And I like actually how the league actually has the language the league has used around this as well. I think they're taking a step in the right direction in how they're framing all this. When Tommy said in the lead up to the game, yeah, we've won the league. We're the best team in the league. This is our league. this is just like icing on the cake, or this would be awesome if we wanted, because we haven't or whatever.
Yeah,
but he's
it's
like
a CPL Cup almost,
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
kept talking about doing the double.
yes,
So he's picked
So
his
he-
words very carefully.
exactly. He's like, we are the champions. Now it would be nice to win this cup as well. But he's like, whatever. So I really, and then the CPL, if you notice in all their posting about it, they're like, Forge are the playoff champions. They're not the champions.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on every post they made, but I've definitely seen it, and I think and I assume that's the influence of someone like KJ, right? Who's like, hey, we need to market this in the right way. We need to have the model, the football model, not the North American sports model, where the league is the most important and shows who is the best over the longest period of time. Because right now the CPL has it in a good way, where you're playing a balanced schedule. You can't say, oh, that team had it easier, or that team got to play the worst team more, or that team got to take 12 points from Edmonton or whatever. Like it's a balanced schedule, and yeah, I don't know. I really, really like that. And then I also, on the other end of things, I did appreciate Bobby's pregame comments where he talked about how, we have a culture where we have to win.
But is this when he was saying it's not easy being a Forge player?
Yeah,
I loved that. I thought that was fantastic. I love Bobby. Like, I don't like Forge, but it's just because they keep winning, I guess, is the main thing. And because it kind of feels like the Ontario bias. But Bobby Smirniotis,
yeah,
he deserves a bigger platform. And I've said before, if Vanny leaves here, I want Bobby to be the next head coach here.
Yeah, that would be very good for the Whitecaps. Yeah, I have a lot of time. I have a lot of time for him. Like, I agree with you. Like, I don't like the Forges won again, and I don't really like Forge, although I like some people who work for them and some of their fans that I know who are friends with.
The battalion, there's some great folk involved.
Oh yeah, I love David Edgar.
Yes,
but anyways, Bobby, someone I have a lot of time for, and so anyways, I liked how they built up the game. Congrats to Forge on going 4-5. Obviously, Felipe is going to be over the moon.
Cock a hoop,
as you would say, Michael. But yeah, another good thing was you correct me if I'm wrong. This is by far the best final they ever had, right? Even though it was all in the business was all done in the extra time. It was by far the best final I remember in the CPL.
Yeah,
in the CPL playoffs.
I mean, it was cagey for a big chunk of the start of the game, but these games are going to be like that. These teams play like that. So many of their games. It was something like 23 of their 25 meetings have been settled by a goal. And got another one now to add to that as well. And it's a great rivalry. It's a great legacy. And we can debate this when we do our CPL roundup as well. But yeah, I mean, you've got Forge up there in the CPL. You've got the Whitecaps back in the CSL days as well. And it's two teams that have that legacy, and they've done fantastic. It's great for them. In some ways, it's not great for the league, because just for interest, you kind of just want other teams to be winning it. So it's great that Pacific at least got that one to break it up. But they're a dynasty. They're a footballing dynasty. There's no getting away from it. They've been in all 5 finals.
Michael, what are your thoughts on the crowd at the playoff final? 13,925 is the announced attendance.
I was a bit disappointed by it, because they'd made so much of, this was going to be the biggest crowd. And when I first saw it, because I got to watch the first 20 minutes before I had to head up to UBC, and I was like, oh man, it doesn't look that big a crowd after all. But you never know because of where the cameras are and who's on the other side. So when I saw what the final attendance was, I'll be honest, I was quite disappointed by that for a championship game.
Yeah. It actually is less than they had last year in Ottawa, because Ottawa was 14,992.
Wow.
So the weather, I'm not sure how much the weather compared. It was. It was. I mean, it's a cold day. Having someone, and there's a few. I know there's some people listen to our podcast who were in Hamilton on that very cold World Cup qualifier versus the United States in January in Hamilton. I'm sure it wasn't that cold, but it looked like a cold. At least it wasn't raining, right? Because the game against Pacific in Hamilton, the playoff final, was horrible weather. It was raining and gross and whatever. There was at least no rain, but yeah, a little bit disappointed. I'm sure they're like publicly they'll say, "Oh, we're happy," whatever, blah blah blah. But I think internally they'll be a little bit disappointed that they didn't do better than last year's final in Ottawa, and that it wasn't more than that, right?
I just want next year's final to be out west on a day when I'm not commentating, so I can finally get to one of these, because that's 5 so far, and I've not been able to get to any of them.
Yeah. Well, you have a complex schedule, so
yeah, it doesn't help that it's like college playoff time, right in the heart of the end of the season either. But
maybe you take Jim Brennan's spot and be next to Jenkins sometime.
I don't think I've got as good clothes as Jim.
Oh, there
I
you
own
go.
a suit for one thing.
Oh,
I could turn up in my big bear costume.
Do you have to wear a suit? Is that mandatory?
They kind of like you to look at least half decent.
I saw a thing on some Star Wars meme recently, and it was like, this is how this is how society expects men to dress or something. It might have been anyways, and it was like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen like dressed in like normal clothes or whatever, and it was like, this is how men want to dress, and it was like them in their Jedi garb,
them in their Chewbacca costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
But finishing up the CPL chat, that is the end of the season. So now it's the tough time. Players will be getting released. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of announcements coming up over the course of this week. Anyone that saw the AFTN Twitter will see we did reveal one of the players that is leaving Vancouver FC is Sean Hundle. And I just had to announce that, obviously, because of Hundle's comments earlier in the season about the Whitecaps, the little dig he had that, it's Vancouver's wanting a winning team, it's nice to have a winning team. Those comments that came back to haunt him so much in the coming weeks. And I don't know whether you'll agree with this or not, but from comments that I've had, and obviously it's a small sample size, it did turn a lot of Whitecaps fans off following Vancouver FC, wanting to come out and support Vancouver FC. And whether that is the kind of fans that you want to track there or not, Zach, that is the kind of fans that the club do need to get. They need to get that crossover in the big Venn diagram. And comments like that didn't help. And there's been a lot of fans quite happy that he's now moved on. That aside, I think finished the season joint leading scorer with 6 goals, lost his place when Alejandro Diaz came in, and you can understand in a way you've brought in a former Golden Boot guy coming in, taking his spot, but then Diaz wasn't performing, so I do feel a little bit for Hundo in losing his spot, because he had earned that spot, but then Gary Bitar then started to hit his stride as well.
Yeah, I think it's for me it's a complex issue, right? Like Sean Hundo will always have like a place in the history of the club because he scored the first ever.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So he'll always be connected in that way. I think on the field, I think there was, even at the beginning of the year, there was concerns about him maybe not being able to do some of the dirty work and some of the other types of things that need to be done to help the side be more successful, whether that was holding the ball up or obviously helping in pressing or helping out defensively. But obviously he was just a massive part of the team, especially in the first half of the year. I think the things I've heard about his attitude towards some of these things and towards ultimately having less minutes on the field because they brought in Diaz are a little bit disappointing on one level, maybe naive on another level, because it's like, this is how football works. You have to be able, and sometimes in my experience in connecting with footballers, many of whom I deeply appreciate over the years, they're not always able to have the greatest grasp of the bigger picture. They're very much focused on themselves and their own careers, which is totally understandable on one level, but they're also playing a team game, right? And so you need to be able to step back and say, we need to be better. And that might include them bringing in people in your position. And you can, how you respond to that is up to you, right? You can respond to that with disappointment or whatever, or you can take that challenge on and try and maintain your spot, win your spot, play in other roles around, or play in combination with that person or whatever. And it was very, very apparent right away, and we talked about it on the show, that Sean wasn't a great fit to work with Diaz, even when Diaz was in that good vein of form or good kind of good run he had at the beginning. And
I remember us saying, how do
him.
you fit them both in the team in the way that Afshin wanted to play? And the answer was, well, you can't.
Yeah. And so the fact that it's being reported by people like yourself that he's now gone is not surprising to anyone amongst the supporters. And although there is a tinge of disappointment in terms of the guy who scored the first goal is no longer here, there's not a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I'm highly disappointed because of what, I'm not saying is his attitude, but what appears to be his attitude. So
and perception in football, as you know, is very important.
So to me, you have to have thicker skin, and you have to be able to fight for your place more, or have to be able to live with a coach's decision and earn your way back, or whatever, or move on, but move on in a good way. And I think he's moved on, and I don't think he's moved on in a good way.
I mean, we'll find out officially, I'm pretty sure, this week as well.
And to your point about the comments, of course, the comments were naive. They were very difficult for people within the club. They're one of the few positives that I heard from people within the league itself, where they appreciated that when that happened and there was frustration online, the one nice thing for them was there were so many people around the league who stood up for the league itself, right? In those comments. But those comments were not helpful to people in communications and in marketing and all that stuff. It was not helpful. It created for us in the supporter community. There are a number of people who enjoy both football clubs, and so that was a little bit hard for them to swallow, and probably why for some of them his departure is not that disappointing. And so I think for most of the supporters, I think that they view it as like, okay, we can move on from that now. Obviously, there's going to be people who continue to ring it up on social media, as we've seen, even since your tweet.
But I think now that should hopefully be the end of it. And
well, it won't be, but
well, I kind of naively probably hope it will be. But
let's put it this way: if he lands somewhere else in the league, it won't be.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, Northern Tribune had got in touch with him, and he's confirmed that he's in talks with a couple of other clubs in the CPL. So it looks like he is going to land somewhere else in the league. You'd imagine Valor would be a good place for him to land. They kind of need a striker. He could be a good fit there under Phil DeSantis. The other players, I'm sure, will be getting announced this week as well. I'll drop one more little tidbit that I've heard, that Ibrahim Bakari is also moving on. So there's going to be a rebuild at the back line. That's not unexpected for a back line that's shipped a lot of goals.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all.
One player I'm hoping is going to come in. We got a chance to see him. You only saw him briefly in one of the games. I saw him play in 2 games. So we were out at Willoughby on Thursday. It was the last day of the post-season, and Vancouver FC took on a Whitecaps 2 side. It wasn't like, once I started to look to see who it was a couple of regulars, couple of fringe guys, and maybe about 4 or 5 call-ups from the academy as well, like 15, 16-year-olds that they had playing. But for VFC, it was a couple of starters, it was a couple of fringe players, and it was trialists as well that was on the pitch. So it was an interesting game, that first.
It was so fun to be there, and it was. I
thought it was great though, that for just like a game like that, you guys got the same crowd out that you did for one of the normal games over this season.
It was great to be able to sit and watch the match in the West Stand with you, Michael. Those seats they're nicer than I thought. The view is better than I thought, and the seats are more comfortable than I thought they'd be.
Yeah, although I did say to you afterwards, being in the stadium when it's empty, you really appreciate how much needs to get done to that stadium to make it what I would class as an acceptable Premier League stadium,
Yeah,
top flight stadium.
And we're all hoping the township of Langley would do those things that are needed to get done.
If they're listening to this, get your fingers out.
Because that's my understanding is that's the work of the township of Langley, right? Like it's not the stewards of the
I'm
club.
not putting any blame on VFC for this at all. They've had their hands tied in this, but it's like someone from the city just needs to sit and look around that stadium and go, is this a world-class stadium? It doesn't even need to be world-class. It's like, is it a stadium that's going to attract, as Rob talked about in the show last week, people in Vancouver have standards that they expect from a stadium, and it doesn't meet it in a lot of them, and it does feel unfinished. That's the whole aside, so I'm getting sidetracked. Yeah. But it was fun. It was fun. It was nice seeing the matches. There's a couple familiar faces for me from watching League One and VMSL. And the player that I was talking about that featured in that game and the second game, which was more VFC trialists against the Whitecaps U19 side, was Danilo Shmachenko, the Ukrainian centre-back that's been with TSS. And this isn't my TSS goggles on, he was excellent in both the games. Very vocal at the back, confident, assured, had some really good tackles, dispossessed the ball, won tackles, got forward. And I really hope they have a serious look at him and get him brought in, because I think he would be a great addition to the team.
This would be my take on Danilo, though. My guess is that Danilo is a player that they view as someone who, if he were to be in the team, wouldn't be a starter, right, on the team. And so therefore, a player like Danilo, I wouldn't expect that type of signing to happen before they make signings of players who are more likely to be starters.
That's fair.
So if a Danilo or Danilo type player, as you described there, players who are going to be more squad players or depth players or whatever, I would expect those signings to come after there's been a number of players signed or brought in that are more likely to be starters. But we'll see how that develops. I agree with you. The game, the half an hour or whatever I saw him play, yeah, he looked solid at the back. The goal, the Vancouver FC goal was scored in the first half on a header from a corner, right, from Nima.
Yes.
And then
I keep not recognising with his haircut that he got months ago now, but I just used him with his longer hair, and every time I see him with his shorter hair, I'm like, who's that? Oh yeah, it's Nima.
His hair is much shorter. And then the equalizer was scored. Was that Trevor in goal?
I don't know. I thought it was Trevor Snyder, but it might not have been.
Yeah. Number 31 was the keeper who played the last.
He was far away. We were at the other side of the stadium.
Yeah, it was. If he was a trialist, I told some of my friends, his trial died in that moment.
Yeah,
because it was, I think, perhaps the worst goal I've ever seen conceded in person. Now I know you've been to Bayview, so you've seen it probably worse. But
I saw our game on Saturday where we lost. But anyway,
no. So it was the ball was played back to him by his teammates, I believe, and he had plenty of time. And I remember, I think I said to you guys, like, oh, he's got to do something with this. And he was trying to play the ball out of the back, and then he realized he was being pressed by the WFC2 attacker, and then tried to go around him, and he got stripped of the ball horribly, and then the ball was walked into the net. Essentially, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And then tell us about the second game against U19.
Yeah, well, the second game, there was a couple of interesting Whitecaps players that were suited up as trialists for VFC.
Oh, that's
Lucas Dasovic, Nick Dasovic's boy. He was partnering Danilo Shmachenko in the centre of defence, so he looked good. And Joe Hansen up front as well, who I thought had a good game, carried himself well. And there's another player that I need to confirm if it was him or not, but I think it was a former WFC2 player that has been lighting it up in the VMSL, and I think he was playing as well, but I need to confirm it. It looked like him.
Oh, okay.
Once someone said, oh, was such a person not there? And I was like, now that you say that, I'm pretty sure that's who the number 43 was. So I just need to clarify that. I'll tell you off camera who it was.
When you told me it was Joe Hansen, I was like, oh, my nephew's name is Joe Hansen, but Hansen spelled differently. So
He's from the Yukon, so again, you've got a nice little story to tell as well. A
Oh, yeah.
professional footballer coming from the Yukon. When he's been with WFC too, CBC from the Yukon have come down to do a couple of pieces on him and stuff as well. But Lukas Dazovic would be an interesting one. If you're just picking him or Danilo, for me it's Danilo all the way. Lucas still has a bit of work to do. You wonder how much his name might carry him through though as well. He's coming back off an injury as well, so I guess we'll see what happened there. But it was a fun day out. It's a nice way to see a couple of games. Beautiful day for it as well.
yeah,
And nice to just catch up with a couple of folk and just have a good chat. And that's them now finished to January. They're going to get the local trialists in mid-January, and then proper training will start towards the end of January. They hope to have some more like trials and stuff as well. So hope to get out to a few more of those this year.
yeah. I'm looking forward to some preseason games, or even if games with the trialists against others. It was just to say, and I think you've said this before too. It was, and obviously I'm biased because I was more engaged because I had a local club to support. But it was the best year I think of the CPL. Like
I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than last year.
Yeah,
Last year, like nothing against last year. It's just, and it is probably with having VFC in. That was probably a bit more engaged. I actually got on less calls this year with other teams than I did last year, which I just trying to find the time to do everything, of course, is always tough. But no, it was good. Yeah, so that's it for the football chat. We'll finish with this episode's wavelength, and I'm going back to a song from 2018 from a regular artist that we featured on the show from Scotland. We've interviewed him as well, Neil Grant, the man that I tasked with doing the Canada World Cup song that didn't catch on the way that either of us hoped it might. And it was still a good song. I still think it should have had a lot more airplay than it did. But he did a couple of songs for North American teams and MLS teams. I've never played this one, but I thought it was very apt to dig it out. It's about Los Angeles FC. This is Neil Grant, We're LA.
In the
Neil Grant, we're LA. Had to dig that one out since the Whitecaps are in a never-ending vortex of playing games against LAFC to end their season, or hopefully not end their season, end someone's season anyway, in these 3 to 4 matches that we might have. That's pretty much it for the show. Any final thoughts from you, Zach? Anything funny caught your eye this week?
No, I just want to say that the Thursday after the postseason stuff ended for Vancouver FC, they had their kind of internal awards night and a gathering for some of the season ticket holders at the offices there. It was a fun little night. They got
invited to it, but after having been out for the 2 games, they didn't want to go home and then trail back out to Langley again.
You should have just hung out at one of your British places in Langley and then stayed for that. But anyways,
well, I had planned to go to SFU, but by the time I got home, I couldn't be arsed leaving the house again.
You would have enjoyed the churros. I heard they were really good. But it was a nice night, and good to connect with the players who are in town.
Hey.
And the staff, and just there was a little bit of honoring the players, but also honoring some of the backroom staff and some of the behind.
I saw Jeevan got an award, which was nice because he's done a lot of work this year.
Jeevan got an award
for Jeevan.
Then they gave him a stick. They gave him a stick because it was something to do with like the office stuff, and they're like, he's the football ops guy. He's not an office guy. But,
he's worked really hard, wearing a number of hats, doing about 4 different jobs. He deserves a break. He should fly. Nice trip to somewhere like Scotland, just relax for a little bit. See what he can come back with.
Oh, Michael, you're so funny. Are they drag racing on your street?
I've told you before, RuPaul's here all the time.
There you go. But no, this was fun. And then added, I got to hang out with, I know, a friend of the show or someone who messages you every so often. Let's call him Rob M. And it was good to hang out with him and connect with him. He's one of the people who enjoys the 2.5 hour plus shows that we put out.
He's going to enjoy this one that I had scheduled down. I said to Caitlin, this is going to probably just be about an hour and a half when it's going to be short this week. But then I thought, let's just riff about everything, and that's taking us to about 3 hours.
Yeah. So he is one of the people who enjoys those shows and a number of aspects of it. I won't go into all of them, but it was good to see Rob. Rob is someone who's connected to Vancouver FC and also Whitecaps as well, and it's been great to get to know him a little bit better. He traveled to Halifax for the first away game in Halifax, which was really awesome for him. And just a quality dude who I've gotten, like I said, gotten to know better in this last year or so. Who I have a lot of time for. And anyways, so shout out to Rob. As he's listening to this, Rob, don't steer off the road. I know you're listening to this while you drive to work. But yeah, shout out to Rob, and it was good to see you this week, and looking forward to connecting hopefully 1 or 2 more times in the off season.
But yeah, give us a follow on Twitter /X at AFTN Canada. As always, youtube.com/AFTN Canada. It's going to be Thunderbirds week. I started it on Friday, haven't done anything Saturday, Sunday, so it's more a Thunderbirds 9 days. I've just not had the time to do all the stuff I want to do. But the Thunderbirds are go, and they're doing well, and I can't wait for not this coming week but the week after when Nationals kick in. The women are in Kingston, Ontario. The guys are in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Dropped a huge hint during my broadcast for the UBC men's game how much I'd like to go to Cape Breton if they wanted to fly me there with the team. We'll see if they take up that subtle or not so subtle hint that I did during it. If you haven't checked out Chris Lee's free kick for UBC's second goal as well, I retweeted that tonight. It's an absolute peach. We'll be back with another episode soon, hopefully talking about the Whitecaps playoffs continuing and not ending.
Yeah, and speaking of that, people, if you're a Whitecaps fan, get out to this game. Or if you're interested in what, experience a Whitecaps game and you haven't been, I don't know why you're listening to the podcast if you've never been to a game and you're in the Lower Mainland, but you need to go out and support this game. This is there's already 20,000 tickets sold, right? There's going to be 20,000 plus people. So they have 7,000 or 7,500 tickets left they can sell in the lower bowl. Get out and go watch this game, because it should be a memorable night no matter what. If they beat them, it'll be massive. If they go out, it's the end to the best year in the MLS era, right? So yeah, if the Whitecaps are your flavor, get out to this match.
Fantastic way to end it. We'll be back soon chatting about that game. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care, and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.